even hosting his own program, Quantum Quest. Cherie and I also share a very sacred bond with William, as he performed the Native American wedding ceremony for us on December 21st, 2012, which binded us together. As William was the sole provider, we would like to help out the family by covering the funeral expenses. Please visit tfrlive.com/whitecrow and you will be redirected to the GoFundMe page. Or you can click on the banner on our front page. Thank you so much for your love and support.
President Bush hospitalized, terror in Toronto. I'm Ann Cates. Former President George H.W. Bush has been hospitalized for an infection hours after his wife Barbara was laid to rest. Correspondent Clayton Neville with the official word from Bush's office.
The statement said the former president was taken to Houston Methodist Hospital Sunday and that he's responding to treatments and appears to be recovering. The announcement comes just days after funeral services were held for his wife of 73 years.
9 people have died and 16 were injured after a suspect driving a van plowed into pedestrians in Toronto. Correspondent Jason Carroll.
The van was able to travel about a half mile to a mile before it finally came to a stop. The driver had a confrontation with a police officer. The officer using incredible restraint as he's able to handcuff him and bring him into custody. That suspect being questioned by police. This is a suspect who was known to police.
U.S. security sources tell Reuters that terrorism is likely the motive behind the attack in Toronto. The defense has rested in the sexual assault retrial of Bill Cosby in suburban Philadelphia.
You now have all the evidence, Judge Stephen O'Neill told the jurors before sending them back to their hotel after an abbreviated day of testimony. The judge said, quote, "Try to relax so that you're on your game tomorrow," end quote. After hearing closing arguments from the defense and prosecution on Tuesday, they'll begin deliberations. The hope is for the 12 members to do what the previous jury failed to do after deliberating for 52 hours, reach a unanimous verdict. The defense rested its case without calling Cosby to the witness stand. "Do you, Mr. Cosby, want to testify?" the judge asked. "No, Your Honor," Cosby said. He didn't testify in the first trial as well. I'm Steve Kastenbaum.
Wall Street was running in place today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 14 points. The S&P 500 closed flat. The Nasdaq off by 18 points. I'm Ann Cates.
You are now tuned into the Truth Frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Astronauts to the moon.
Ten, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show, and we're in a snow globe, and they just shook it up.
Welcome to reality.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. We are first testing to make sure we are live and on the air. So give me one moment to get that confirmation, because I'm not hearing anything on my end, and I don't know if it's connecting. So we will check that. Hope everybody is well. Give me 1 second. All right, we're on. Good. So hello, everyone. Good evening, boys and girls, children of all ages. You are tuned into your protection from deception right here at truthfrequencyradio.com. And lucky you, you are tuned in to the #1 show on TFR on Monday nights between the hours of 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific, 9 to midnight Eastern. That show is Jeranism Monday Night Raw, and it starts now. I'm your host, Jeran from Jeranism, and with me to my left, because she's no longer on my right, the one, the only, Missa Amazing. Missa, what's going on?
Not too much.
Not a lot?
No.
Just a little?
Just a little bit. Which is good. I like it that way.
Glad you're back and healthy.
Thank you.
And we are back from last week, which was a weird week or a weird day. Last Monday, out of nowhere, we had a massive hailstorm, which is something that you don't get every day here in California or in Merced, to say the least. It's usually hot. And, well, we did learn that hailstorms come from a sunny day with thunder and lightning, right?
Right, yeah.
So that's something we didn't know. But yeah, and it shut off our power for a good 3 or 4 hours, so we got to play around in the dark, which is always fun. So yeah, we weren't able to be on the show last week, but the hail has stayed away from today. We did get to watch some videos of some pretty amazing hail balls hitting people's car. What was the biggest one? Like as big as a bowling alley. Yeah, bowling ball. Like,
yeah.
I think a bowling ball is. I thought it was 9 inches in diameter.
Yeah, I think it was 8. They said it was like 8 3/4.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That is so big. And we're just watching videos of people getting hit from behind or their car window shattering and
people getting
crazy.
Hit on their bodies with them.
And then remember we read about there was a hailstorm that killed like 60 people.
Yeah.
Sometime in the past.
Yep.
That's crazy.
That was insane.
So ours was not quite that large. Nobody died. We just got what looked like snow in the backyard. So that was interesting. Something we haven't seen yet here. But we are back this week, so thank you for joining us no matter where you might be, whether you're upside down in Australia or maybe in New Zealand, or maybe you're perpendicular in Hawaii, Uncle Sheba, and to those in Mozambique, hello. Thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you. So it feels like it's been forever since we've been on. We had a few things we wanted to talk about. Oh, we didn't discuss our project, which actually turned out better than we thought.
It did.
Yeah, we had a bunch of extra wood that Miss asked what we wanted to do with. And at our old house, we used to have a bocce court in the backyard, which we no longer have that house and can't move it with us. So we wanted to build something that was fun for us to do. Since we don't go out, we don't go to movies and do date night and things like that. So something that we could enjoy at home. So we decided to try and build a shuffleboard table, which are usually, $3,000 to $4,000, $5,000 upwards from that.
As much as a used car.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. And so we tried to, we attempted to build one, and it went, I think, better than expected.
Yeah.
We had a lot of choices for what we wanted to do for what they call the playing field, which is basically we built a big box and put legs on it. And then you have to have the playing field, which is the point of the shuffleboard. If people don't know what shuffleboard is, I'm not talking about the one that you take the stick
not curling.
Curling is kind of the same thing. But there's also a shuffleboard where you take a stick and slide discs on the ground. Usually they have them at like campsites, things like that. But a shuffleboard is up higher. It's about 36 inches off the floor. And you use little things called pucks, or they're actually called shuffleboard weights. And you slide those down. Usually what people think is salt, or what did you have somebody ask what it was?
Everyone says sand.
Sand, right, which is actually just a silicone wax.
In a powder form.
Yeah, in a powder form. Kind of people call it cheese, a lot of different things. And you basically slide these weights down and try and come as close as you can to the edge of the table. So the playing field is the most important part, and how to go about doing that. There's lots of options, but we decided to go with like a butcher's block, which was just taking a bunch of pieces of wood and cramming them all together.
Which took a long time.
Took a long time.
It was not as easy as it sounds.
No, you got to glue them all together. The table, that piece itself was 12 feet. Yeah.
It was, 12 feet by 20 inches.
Yeah, 12 feet by 20 inches. So we had to build that. We had to get it all glued together, which took over a week, just putting it together, clamping it, trying to get it to stay flat, stay level.
Bend up. Oh, it was very tedious.
Very tedious. And then we had options for what we were going to do on the finishing coat. Some people do a polyurethane. Some people do... What are some of the other options? I guess polyurethane was the main one.
Or granite tops, people try and do that.
Right, or you can do granite. You can do lots of different kind of rock, marble. We decided to go with the epoxy resin, which, if you've ever looked that up online, is amazing what can be done with it. But there's also a lot of horror stories It is not easy, I guess, unless you follow the directions. I would say for the most part, ours turned out easy.
I would say that it could have been even easier. I think we should have let it drip off the edges and just broke off the pieces.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about them.
So we watched enough videos where we were back and forth how we were going to do this. We ended up trying to build basically a moat around this 12-foot by 20-inch piece of wood.
With duct tape and painter's tape and
with
cardboard.
duct tape and painter's tape and all the extra cardboard we had from moving, and we constructed this moat, which seemed to do well at first. We then the epoxy resin, and this is fun to do if you ever. It's expensive. What was it, like $60 for a gallon?
Yes.
So it cost us $60 to do the whole table, and that was with one coat, kind of painted on with a paintbrush, and then what they call a fill coat. Is that what they call a pour coat?
I guess the top coat or whatever. You just pour it.
You just dump it on top.
Thick.
Yeah,
like
and
it's like molasses.
Yeah, it's like molasses, and it's supposed to self-level. So that was kind of the appeal to us, rather than have to do something that we would have to level ourselves. We just figured we'll get as close as we can to level, and then pour this epoxy resin and let it self-level. So we did that. We did the pour coat, and then kind of looked at it for a little while. Things looked like it was doing well. We had to use a hairdryer to kind of pop some of the bubbles that form, but everything looked good. So I was working on one section, kind of looking at it, and Missa went inside, and we kind of felt like we were done. Now the next step is to wait, I think they say 72 hours, full hours.
Yep.
And Missa went inside, and it was probably 10 or 15 minutes. I just wasn't paying attention. And next thing I know, I look, and our moat had broke down at the end of the table, and there was a pile of this epoxy resin, which will quickly turn to glass. Laying on the floor of the garage. So then the next 2-3 hours was spent trying to salvage what was left of the moat, correct that, get the garage cleaned up, get the floor taken care of. All in all, though, at the end, the piece is absolutely beautiful.
It's really awesome.
And for those interested, and maybe I can get a picture. Do you have a picture? Maybe you could send it to my computer. I'll drop it in the chat.
Sure.
Just to show the Flatters map that we put on the middle ornament of the table.
Put its debut in there.
Had to put it in there so that it looks unbelievable. I mean, it really does look gorgeous. And it's been fun to play so far, although all we've played so far is bowling because we don't have any actual weights yet. We did the whole table, everything. And now granted, we had most of the wood. So, I mean, it's not something that I think other people could do for around the same price. But the whole thing, and this includes lights, it's actually a lit table, was around a little more than $300, and that's the epoxy resin. That's the everything. The wood for the sides. We needed to buy wood for the side of the box. But all in all, for what it will return us as far as entertainment value, it's an awesome piece. And yeah, all in all, now that is the price. And to get the good weights, just the weights that you play on the table, they want like what $200 for the set. Like $99 each group of 4?
Yeah, around that, yeah. I mean, I think the lowest price I've seen is like $60, but those are...
They're supposed to be chintzy or something?
We're waiting on that because it's really not that important in terms of... Well, as important as
eventually it's important,
shuffleboard, but
we got the shuffleboard now.
The bowling alley is fun for me. I like that.
The bowling is awesome, yeah. So this is going to come up here in a second. I'll drop it in the TFR chat. So hello to those chatting there. If I don't know why this picture is not coming up. You did send it to me, huh? I don't know why it's taking a minute.
Okay.
Can I save it from here? We'll try. And there we go. Let's try that.
I'll also send you a full picture of the...
Oh, yeah. Send me the picture. So we'll show you. And don't laugh at the legs because, like I said, we use scrapped wood.
So 2 pictures I'm sending you can't see the legs.
And then we did all the upholstering, or Missa did. I didn't do any of the upholstering. In felt. Things from the dollar store. Oh, that's beautiful. That's a good picture right there. I wonder if this will come up. Oh, there it is up there. What?
It's huge. That's a big picture.
I don't know why it won't say. I guess I just have to wait for it. Oh, here's this one. So we can send you this picture here. Or maybe I'll just drop the link in. That's
stencil is hard to make. It's very hard because the details of a map, of a world map, is very... anyone who's ever made a stencil of something with lots of little corners and crevices knows the difficulty that...
Yeah, it wasn't easy. That's for sure. Let's go with this one and see if you get that. Submit image. Taking a minute. So hopefully that goes across. But that is the... And so if anybody is interested in the, I guess, our plans, my drawings, that's how it started out. It started out with
You made your
drawings.
own plans. We didn't do it off of like a template or anything?
This says wrong file type, even though it is a JPG. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, maybe it's too big.
Can I send this link? Do you know if this link is for anybody?
I don't know, but you can try it.
Yeah, because you sent it push bullet. I'm not sure if that works that way. We'll try this and see if anybody can see this link. Okay. Just so you can see it. We'll try that. So I just sent a link. I was quite the bowler, drone. Yeah, I used to bowl well too. I actually have a 299 under my belt, which is kind of a. I don't know why you would even tell people that. It's like I came really close one time to being good.
Well, that's a great score.
It is a great score, yeah.
Oh my goodness,
we used to bowl in a league together way back. Geez, how many years ago was that now? At this point, that was when we lived in Monterey.
That was when Corey was like in
third
grade.
Is that 10 years ago? No.
Wow, me no. Well.
Yeah. Well, no, it would have been 2009, 2010.
10, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like
8-9 years ago. Somebody has a 700 series. Nice. Somebody in the chat had a 700 series. That's awesome. 3 consecutive games add up to 700.
Meaning that they got at least 250.
Well, 250, 250, 250 would be 750. The harder thing, my dad's done it once, is 800. That's 267, 267, 267, or an average of that.
That's impressive.
So, yeah, you can. They said it's tight, so they can obviously see it. I'll show you the one other picture here. This is with the lights on. Oh, you don't have the one with the pins up?
I do.
Oh, you do?
I'll send you that.
Send me one more. We also have the picture of the one with the bowling pins, which is what we've been playing so far, is just bowling. And, yeah, really cool. And if anybody's interested, email me, and we will send you the plans for it. It was, other than the whole table that you see is now it's a glass surface. So, you just need to make sure that where you're putting it is leveled, and then the table itself is leveled. Mm-hmm. So this one here, let me just copy this one. So we'll send that one. So that was enjoyable. It was about 2 weeks of fun for us. And now, every night we get to play that for a little while, which is fun for us because we don't have anything else to do, really.
Right.
So we need something to kind of take our mind. Usually we spent our time before doing parody songs.
Right.
So I'm sure we'll still do those, but that's so cute with the pins right there. And let me drop this one in there for you. It's
and the lights change, which the lights we got from Amazon for like $10, and they change.
Yeah, I think they were $12 or $13.
So cheap. Yeah.
And they come with a little remote control that changes the colors.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll send you one where that's really pretty with the pins up.
Oh, yeah, good. I'm going to check that one there. So, yeah, the picture I just put in the chat room is just the whole table is 13 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then the playing field that you see there that was all the wood glued together in a butcher's block was 12 feet.
Yeah. Then the ball return that we just did, don't have a picture of it.
Yeah, we built
that was pretty impressive by your little engineering ideas that you drew up.
Yeah, we had an extra piece of plywood, or a big piece of plywood, and we cut it in in like a strip about 1.5 inches.
Yeah.
And then just used hooks and hooked it onto the side of the table that's on the wall there that you can't see from here. And then the person setting up the pins down at the other end of the table, because what we noticed is we're using an 8-ball, a pool billiards ball as a bowling ball, and when you would throw it back to the person, sometimes you could hit the corner of the glass. We just were like, this is not safe. Yeah. So we actually built this little ramp that is hooked on with just regular, what are those called? Just hooks?
Yeah, hooks.
Gold hooks that you screw into the wall, and the little piece of plywood is sitting against the wall, kind of leaning almost like a V, a letter V. And you just set the ball on it and it rolls to the person throwing.
Yeah.
So really cool. And then we were thinking like, oh man, how bowling scoring sucks. Nobody likes to keep score in bowling. And then we have our old TV, which is just a regular flat screen TV. We don't even really use it anymore because we just we don't watch TV. So that's really the reason.
It's not even plugged in.
It wasn't even plugged in, sitting against the wall.
Yeah.
And so we found out that there's an app that you can have on your phone, and then you have through AirPlay. So now we are able to just keep score on the phone, which shows on the TV, which is next to the table. So it's really cool. So it's something that I don't know if you have the room in your house. We have this living room that we don't have much in. There's like a 2-seater couch and a 1-seater couch, and that's our entire living room. We just have nothing in there. So now we've got this, and it's a little fun. So.
And the scoreboards, if anyone has ever had to go shopping for a shuffleboard scoreboard.
They're ridiculous.
So expensive, and for the idea behind it, it seems like ridiculously too much to charge for.
Yeah, it's just so much
like
that
that,
they.
so it was kind of cool.
And I did put the picture of the flat Earth map, I think, didn't I? Yeah,
I did. That
That was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And this one here, if it ever loads, you can check out this one. This is with the pins. I can't see it because it won't load on my computer yet.
Sure.
So that one, there's the last picture. So it was definitely fun. And if you're ever in the Merced area, let me know. And you can come by and battle us in some sort of
because we're really good
bowling matchup. Yeah, but we don't want to tell people our first scores. We actually tied, which was really cool.
That was cool.
Our very first game, we tied. Now, if I tell you the score, it's pretty humiliating. Because if I were to say, what do you think we scored? People would say, well, let's see.
Let's see what people in the chat would say.
Yeah, let me see some people in the chat. We remember, this is the very first time, first game.
Official game that we started with the score.
It doesn't look very hard, does it? And you're setting up, you're rolling an 8-ball at the pins there.
Yep.
And
12 feet away, by the way.
12 feet away. On a level board. Maybe they'll get their answers. Okay, so what do you think we bowled? Remember, 160 said Jason Campbell. Man, I wish.
Now you're giving hints to the score, though.
And we will get better, I'm assuming. But yeah, the first game was. So we have a guess for 160. Let's say that it was
less than half of that.
It was less than half of that. Yep. Yeah, it was less than half of that. Our first score we tied at 59. So.
Was it 59?
Or was it 69?
I think it was 49.
No, it was 59.
No, it was 49. Remember, because I said, what is 9 plus 4 equal?
Oh yeah, that was. It was 49. 49. That is ridiculous. I can't believe it's so bad. Yeah, 49.
Yeah,
you heard me correct. Yes, we were the losers. So we will get better. But again, if you ever want to come by and check it out, it should be here. I don't picture it ever going anywhere. I don't know what could possibly happen. And if you're wondering how the lights work, we just took that. It's like a strip LED light. I know you can get them from Amazon. I forgot the brand name. And then they're just stuck up underneath the padding there, and all that is just extra wood.
You have a sticky back on it.
Yeah, and all that's just extra wood that Miss wrapped with Dollar Tree felt, and that's it. And then the sides are wrapped in the felt, and then the lights are up underneath the lip. It was all done with extra wood. So yeah, I mean,
sometimes
can't be any more pleased with the way it turned out.
Yeah.
So now, speaking of being pleased with the way things turned out,
segue.
I'm about to delve into something that didn't turn out quite as well for me. So what we wanted to go over this week and kind of just discuss is the RAW debate, I guess you can call it. It wasn't supposed to be a debate. It was supposed to be a discussion.
So you were on someone's show, basically.
I was on a show. It was called the Non Sequitur Show. And they had told me, originally, they had messaged me and said that somebody named RAW wanted to talk to me or wanted to have a discussion about Flat Earth. So I kind of looked it up and just saw that he was an atheist. I saw a recent debate he had with Kent Hovind. And that's basically all I looked at. If it was a debate, at least the way I look at things, and this is what I asked the show hosts, I said, is it a debate or a discussion? They said, oh, no, we don't like debates. We don't like formal debates. It'll be just a discussion. Well, when somebody says that, there's really nothing to plan for, right? There's no preparation in my mind.
If you're discussing something, you're just discussing between two people or whatever.
Right, and it's your opinion. It's my beliefs. I figured he wanted to know why I believe what I believe. And so I didn't have any preparation because I've learned in the past, at least, that anytime you prepare for something that there's really no preparing for, it can almost hurt you because how do you know what you're going to get on?
Yeah, how do you know what you guys are going to talk about?
Right, and then something you might be focusing on, then you want this to steer the conversation in that direction, and it just doesn't become a real conversation. So I certainly didn't prepare. Now, if it was a debate, then my first question would always be, what is the claim, and which position am I taking? And then that is something you would always want to prepare for. If you're going to debate an issue, you want to know what your claim is or what claim you are refuting. And then you want to do some background and to make sure you have your points ready for that debate. Yes. So I wish that I would have kind of known the direction it was going to go, because right from the beginning, and we'll start it here in a moment, and a warning to people, if you've already heard this, you probably want to tune out for the show because it is painful.
He's just this guy, Aaron, his name is?
RAW, yeah.
He's not I wouldn't say a good example, because I'm not sure if there's many other people out there that are that interruptive when it comes to having a quote unquote discussion with somebody. But he's a good, I would say, representation of the idea of, I guess you could say, the mindset of a Glober, like someone who is able to grasp everything and just shoot it all out without really thinking. He's a good example of that, like to where he just doesn't think anything but the black and white, and there's nothing else.
Right. He thinks he couldn't have been fooled. Mm-hmm. Everything he's been taught is correct. He keeps saying, I do my own investigations. I do my own research. I look, but he doesn't. Obviously, we can't go to his house and find a lab where all these things that are done scientifically are performed and that he's double checked them. He's just calling trusting scientists doing your own research.
Right.
Like, okay, I went and read the papers and it says that they did this, this, and this, so therefore it's been done.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the case. Somebody who put it perfectly, Curious Jay, said that it reminded him of the David Letterman questions. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, so if David Letterman has somebody on their show, what he'll always say is he'll say, so how did you enjoy the movie premiere? Did you enjoy Paris? Where did you guys go to eat? What people did you take and how did you enjoy it? So then the person is like, well, what the hell question do I answer there? You just asked me 7.
Yeah.
So,
and before you can even answer 1, they come in and ask you 5 more.
Yeah, I would get halfway through one answer, and then he'd be building on top of that. Mm-hmm. So it did definitely take me out of my element. I didn't know what to. And then I also realized this guy doesn't want to hear my reasons for what I believe. I thought it was going to be a discussion. Yeah. And then he goes on and on with, well, I can't believe you don't know what the moon is and this and this. And it said, well, I never said that I did. So to say you can't believe that I don't know is kind of, how am I supposed to argue that?
It's obnoxious, actually.
It is obnoxious.
The guy sounds like a little child when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and then at one point,
but a bad child.
You'll hear it if as we listen. But at one point, he says to me, I ask him what the fabric of space is. And he says, well, that's what it is, the fabric of space. And this is toward the end of the conversation. I said, no, what is it? And he said, well, that's what it is. It is what it is. I said, well, if that's allowed, then when you asked me what the moon is, I could have said the moon. And he said, well, what is it? The moon's the moon. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't know that was kind of answer that was allowed. So. Yeah. Definitely a learning experience. So we will listen to that because I didn't have a chance to kind of answer some of the questions there that I would have if I would have been placed in a situation that was more, and I'm waiting for the break, by the way.
When you're told you're going to have a discussion with a human being, do you think you're going to have a discussion with a human being, not with someone who's going to just keep spewing out things and not even listen to you?
No, he could care less. Yeah. No. And once you've already feel that you know everything, then why are you having discussions at all?
Right, exactly.
I don't know if we're going to hear the break music or not since we didn't hear the intro, which is why we didn't know if we were on. So if we are, I guess, how do we say that? Well, if the break, how do I say it? If the break comes and you don't hear us kind of tail off as the break comes, maybe you could just type in the chat that, your break time. Because I do think it is right about now, but I don't know. So when we get back, we'll listen to a little bit of that. Hopefully we can do that for the next hour or so, shoot through some of that. And then after that, we'll probably take some calls. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or cares, or what other C words? Not that questions starts with C, but sounds like it does. Questions.
Spelled C-U-C-W.
Yeah, C-W.
S.
Man, we got you revealed another one of your cart tables.
Oh.
What one was it? Remember, it was just this week when we were out in the garage.
We were in the garage. I remember where it was in the garage. I don't remember what it was.
There was another one.
It was.
I can't remember what it was.
Oh, this will be tough.
I won't remember it.
I won't. Well,
we got to write those down because we maybe need to carry a little notebook with me.
I think so. I'm trying to think. Okay, well, I don't remember.
Don't remember?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It's gonna bug me though for the rest of the show.
I know, me too. It's like I can't think about anything else now. It's like, think of that. So also this week, I guess we'll talk about this before we also took a little trip to go try and film the ISS pass in front of the sun. Mm-hmm. And again, we were rudely slapped across the face with clouds. So thank you very much. I do want to thank Paul on the plane, who also has a new show here on TFR. Welcome to the family, Paul. But Paul is the one who lent me his solar filter. Which was nice of him. However, we didn't get to. And the deal was, I said, let me borrow it, and whatever they call it. Sure, if you want to spit clouds in front of the sun. It's really pretty. And then how long?
The ayahuasca vine is the non-psychoactive component of the South American healing ceremony, ayahuasca. It is known for its anti-parasitic properties, both physically and spiritually, and is considered the spirit of Aya. The hemp plant has been considered a miracle healer by natives around the world for the powerful non-psychoactive component, cannabidiol, also known as CBDs. These miracle plants have been reported to aid relief with everything from inflammation, chronic pain, tremors, anxiety, heart palpitations, depression, and much more. For the first time, we have created the perfect synergy of the hemp and ayahuasca plants to bring you a perfect balance of mind, body, and soul. We call this Aya Life, and you can find it at ayalife.com. That's AYA life.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
One night, a man had a dream he was walking along the beach, listening to Jeran and Mitha on Monday Night Raw.
Across the flat horizon flashed scenes from his past, and he realized life wasn't what he was taught.
For each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to Jeranism.
When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back in the sand and noticed many times along his path there was only one set of footprints. He realized they happened at the lowest times of his life, and so he questioned Jeranism about it.
Guys, you said if I listened to your show, you'd be with me all the way. But in my times of need, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why when I needed you both the most, you would leave me.
My dear child, we love you and would never leave you.
When you see one set of prints, that's because it wasn't on a Monday.
Need a friendly voice? Call Grandma.
But if you need truth at all costs, then join us for a threesome.
Ooh.
Mondays 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific, only on truthfrequencyradio.com.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
Welcome back. Thank you for listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw, and thank you for those in the chat who are helping us through our little nightmare. But we actually got it fixed, so we actually heard the break time that time. So anyway, you no longer need to tell us. We should be on the correct road. So thank you, Jason Campbell, for helping us out. I don't know where we left off. I'll just say again in case they didn't hear us. That we this week also got, was it this week? I guess it was maybe a week and a half ago. Yeah, where we went and tried to film the sun. We tried to film the ISS, which was supposed to pass in front of the sun. We had to drive all of, 15 minutes to be right at the place where the ISS would cross directly across the middle of the sun. It was supposed to happen around 6 p.m., which was when the sun was nice and low on the horizon. It was going to be a great view. And unfortunately, we got there and we kind of knew as we were driving there, like, oh man, please clear clouds.
There was like a little gap between. There's the sun coming through some cloud, or in behind some clouds, or whatever you want to call it. The clouds were blocking the sun, and then there's a gap, and then there's some more clouds. We're like, it's got to make it in that gap by the time and it didn't.
Didn't happen. And then not more than 20 minutes after, the sun is right there as big as could be, no clouds. It was like unbelievable. So again, we failed, but I did want to thank Paul on the plane, who is a new TFR host. He's got a show now, so wanted to thank him. He's the one who lent me his solar filter for the camera. So it was a nice attempt. And we did get to see the ISS, was that a week or 2 ago? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Go above our heads in one of the better passes that we've seen in a while. And it looked, I don't know, I struggle so bad with it.
Star.
Looked like a star, brighter than any star.
I've seen it brighter than this last time
Yeah.
I watched it. It was bright, but I've definitely seen it brighter.
And it was cloudy the first, I don't know, halfway till it got above our heads.
Beginning right above the horizon, it was cloudy, and then as it almost got two-thirds, 3/4 of the way across the sky, then those clouds again, and then it disappeared.
Yeah, and we had a crazy day outside with the colors the other day.
The clouds were so weird.
Blue and pink and
then like swirlies, like
oh man, it was unbelievable.
And then there was one spot of the sky that looked like an eye.
Yeah, we took some pictures of that too. That was crazy.
It was looking like towards the horizon.
Yeah, it was really creepy, really cool. Yeah. So we've had some enjoyable observations recently, but nothing to write home about. I really would have liked to. The reason I want so bad to see the ISS cross the moon or the sun is I still can't say for sure that it is the shape that they say. And just for people who don't know, I mean, we don't think or we don't believe that there are people on the ISS, but the craft that is in the sky or whatever it is, it would help me a lot to just know. And again, yeah, you can go online, you can go on YouTube and find tons of people who have done it. And clearly every time it goes across the sun or the moon, it is a ISS looking shape, which is almost like a double barred letter H. That makes any sense?
Yeah, very good. 2 H's on like a...
Almost 2 H's, yeah. And I've seen it from tons of people. But in the kind of way that we handle things now, we really need to see it for ourselves before I adopt it and say, okay, this is a foregone conclusion that it is this shape. Just filming it myself would be all I need to see, and we've tried it so many damn times.
So many freaking times.
And we just cannot, for the life of us, get it. No. So it's upsetting.
It is.
But yeah, and do I have any doubt that it is that shape? Not really. You know, I think that it is probably whatever is up there is that shape. But knowing that it is, and then we will be able to
go from there.
Go from there. We also had a group viewing of the ISS this week, which was 3 or 4 of us, myself and some people down in LA, were viewing it at the same time. Again, it was cloudy for me, and one of them wasn't able to film it last second. And so that's kind of in the future. I want to do that, get some triangulation, get some distances down. Good. I do want to mention 2 things real quick, just for those who are in the area. Somebody telling me something? I don't know. Yes, May the 4th. Bob called that Star Wars Day yesterday. I'm like, what's Star Wars Day? And he says, May the 4th be with you. I'm like, oh boy.
Oh, yeah.
Bob, come on, man. No Star Wars jokes with me.
Bob, come on.
Not a fan. So May 4th in Sacramento, there is going to be a meetup that all things as they are now, I will be attending. That will be May the 4th at 5 p.m. Can't remember the name. Alley Cats, I think, is the name of the bar. You can go to Globebusters channel. I know that Bob mirrored the little call out for it, and then also so did Mark Sargent. So you can go to either one of those channels and get the details.
Is he going?
Bob?
No, Mark.
I don't think so. No, I doubt it. And if I'm wrong about that, then somebody will correct me, I'm sure. But
you said that he mirrored it, so I thought maybe he was.
So Mark Sargent is the one who puts any kind of meetup anywhere in the country. He puts a video up highlighting it. That's where people get all their meetup information. So really cool of him to do that. Cool. And then the following Saturday, which is May the 12th, you can come down to Palmdale if you want and meet Miss and I, and even Mr. Puppy will be going with us. Yep. So we'll be down there for a meetup as well. So those are May the 4th, which is a Friday, and then May the 12th, which is the following Saturday in Palmdale.
Busy week.
busy. So that'd be cool. We haven't got a chance to go to many meetups, so I wanted to hit these two up since they are both within reason. One's 2 hours away. The other one, I don't know how far Palmdale is.
I was just going to ask.
It's about 4 or 5 hours, I think, down south. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, into the boonies.
L.A.?
Well, that's the boonies of LA. There's LA and then there's the outskirts.
Yeah, I don't think we're going south of there. So where we went last time, where we went to El Cajon. That was a little bit of a jaunt.
A nightmare, and I will never. Oh my god.
That was the dumbest thing we ever did. We made a lot of money off of it.
Right.
But as far as getting it, I don't think it was worth it because we bought some things at an auction and had to drive down there to pick them up, and it was like 110.
In a truck with no AC.
Oh, it was miserable.
And a puppy, and we just didn't prepare the right way for it at all.
Oh, it was just miserable.
I would say I would do it again if I prepared.
Oh, I remember it was supposed to be on a Monday. We ended up missing the show because I remember that.
Because we were supposed to be back in time for the show.
Yeah, for some geniuses, we're like, okay, well, it takes 8 hours to get there, 8 hours to get back. We'll do the hour to load everything. We'll be good.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, though, about the meetup down in Palmdale, you can contact Netta. I know she's in charge of it. And let me get her email address, which I should have ready here, but I don't. Netta is, her email is netta073@yahoo.com. So if you have any questions. And I know that they're providing all the food, which are sandwiches and drinks will be provided.
Wow.
Yeah, really cool. And I know that as of recently, Nat Geo will be there, as will some news channel will also be there. So should be interesting. It's supposed to be pretty large. So if you want to join us, head over to Palmdale or contact Netta for more info.
I wonder if Netta is short for Antoinette. It's like a nickname for, like, that's what my guess was.
I could ask her. I have her Telegram.
Oh,
no,
Telegram. I thought you were going to say telephone.
No, Telegram. I like
Telegram.
Telegram.
Going back in time now? Telegram's not telephone.
Telegram, we went back in time. Okay. For anybody interested, also join the 32-member, we have 32 members currently in the Flat Earth Research Telegram group. You can go to t.me/FE research. Myself, there's tons of people in there. Netta is one of them. Karen B is one of them. We've also got Paul on the plane.
Your phone definitely lets you know when you get one.
Yep. Curious J, Dave Weiss, a whole bunch of us are in there, and it's just a good place to chat about anything Flat Earth related. And then I don't know if you know about Telegram, but it's really cool because everything is searchable. It's real easy to put an @ sign in front of somebody's name, and then it just notifies just them, or they're able to go back, and rather than have to read through, there's 32 people in this group. So rather than have to read through the entirety of the messages, you can just click the button that only shows you what things were said to you. It's also searchable, which is amazing because no matter how big the groups get up to, I think it's like 100,000 people.
What? In one group?
Yeah.
Jeez.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what they say, and everything will always be searchable. So you can search the messages back as far as you want. At least that's what they say, and they're taking off. A lot of people have purchased it's free, have downloaded the app. So something you should look into. Telegram, again, we're not supported by them or have no affiliation with them.
Using it.
We like using it.
Or
so
do you do?
I do. Missa knows nothing about it.
I use Marco Polo.
She's Marco Polo with her family. Which is kind of the same thing, right? It's basically, you can
not
post
as
videos.
Detailed as the Telegram, but basically the same.
Yeah, Telegram gets a little too confusing for me too. You can do bots. You can do
Why would you want to do bots? I mean, bots are so annoying.
Well, you can make it so if somebody asks a question, the bot answers that particular question because it there's trigger words.
So you don't have to answer.
And then also in the group, you can actually say YouTube search dogs, and then the YouTube does a search in the group.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how to use that stuff, so I shouldn't talk about it because it's a little bit above my pay grade, but definitely a interesting app if you want to check it out.
Cool.
We did have some news in I don't have my news sound. Shoot, I was going to do a news sound. We're so bad with this thing. There we go. There we go. See? No, we had some news about space and the where we all come from.
Yeah.
So we should check that out. It was on CBS News. Mm-hmm. So let's have a hearsay and let's hear what the latest is. New findings have physicists questioning reality. Let's check it out.
Physicists believe that when time began, at the moment of the Big Bang, matter and antimatter were created in equal amounts. And based on recent measurements made at CERN Laboratory in Switzerland, it seems there is perfect symmetry between the two, which they say implies that our universe should not exist. What? Okay, here to talk about this perhaps disconcerting discovery is CBS News science and futurist contributor and theoretical physicist Michio Kaku. All right, Professor Kaku, so can you explain, first of all, what antimatter?
So yeah, I'd like them to explain. I guess I should check with the chat to make sure that they heard that.
Sure.
Chances are maybe they didn't.
I would like to say I do agree that the universe that they created does not exist.
Should not exist.
It doesn't exist. They've made it up. So I would agree with that.
Can somebody in the chat just let me know that you could hear that news piece? And if not, then we'll know not to ever do that again. But we did try a little sample before the show, and the Skype test call could hear it.
Yeah,
so I'm assuming
they
that.
did.
Oh, we did. Okay, thanks, Jason. Okay, so Michio Kaku is now going to explain what exactly is antimatter,
and why it shouldn't exist.
But let's hear him explain this. This is the beginning of it's classic. I don't know where he gets these
First of all,
things.
scientific. So
Scientific, yes. Remember that. These are people you put your trust in regards to where you live,
First of
how
all,
everything works.
First thing off, this video right here, I like how they sort of try to set up behind her, and they make it look like there's a bunch of researchers there with their computers researching finding stories. It looks
Sure
really
they
funny.
are.
That's
This guy's looking like, anybody looking at me? I think he's looking at porn back there. All right, let's listen in here.
Is, and how is it different from the matter that we interact with every day?
Well, there's a Nobel Prize out there if you can figure out how this thing works. Antimatter is the mirror image of ordinary matter. It's extremely rare. If I had some in my hand, it looked like ordinary matter. Has the same chemical properties, except if I touch it, it would explode and destroy all of New York City, parts of Connecticut, and New Jersey. Every Star Trek fan knows.
Hold on.
Time out
You
here.
could see it in his face when he was saying what states they would take out. He was making that shit up at every moment that he was.
First of all, he's holding, if I had antimatter in my hand, then he goes on with a story and then says, but if I touch it, well, sir,
It's in your hand.
pretty sure you're holding it, and then says it would blow up all of New York City and parts of Connecticut, as if there's an exact measurement of what this pretend matter in his hand or antimatter would do if he touched it. It's just, what are you talking about?
This is the greatest energy source in the universe, matter, antimatter collision.
Okay, all right, so that's it. Well, what is it about this symmetry between matter and antimatter that, you know, leads CERN's
driving the Big Bang. So by rights, we shouldn't be here.
Right.
Because we have more matter than antimatter in our sector of the galaxy. We've looked for
So then basically what he's saying is the way we tell you that the universe began does not end with what we have today.
Does not match with observations.
Right, so therefore their beginning theory is null. Then.
Absolutely.
So it's so funny that he's saying that. Look at that contraption. It looks like the ISS.
What is that? My goodness.
What is going on there?
Look at the tinfoil. You know, it's funny. I brought this up before, but they call us tinfoil hat wearers, right? So you're wearing tinfoil hat. Okay, which is supposed to protect us from radiation. Okay. Well, who's the first one that protected themselves from radiation with tinfoil? NASA.
Yeah.
They went to the moon and wrapped their entire little thing in foil and then said that protects them from radiation. And we're the tinfoil hat wearers? Excuse me, I've never put any tinfoil on to protect myself from radiation. You have.
There's a gold tinfoil.
Yeah, that's gold tinfoil. Let's continue.
Galaxies. We've looked for anti-planets. We don't see any.
They've looked for anti-planets. We don't see any.
Where are the anti-planet hunters? I'd like to know how they hunt for those things.
However, at the Big Bang, there's supposed to be an equal amount of matter and antimatter, but they can't find any of the antimatter. And everything I've been told about science says if you make a prediction and it doesn't match observations, then the prediction is wrong. You throw it away. Not you make the prediction and then you build 60 years or 100 years of shit on top of it. And then when things don't match, you make things up. Dark matter. Oh, we're still looking. It's a Nobel Prize if you go out and find this mysterious thing that meets our...
To match our fake theory.
I don't even understand what that means, but okay, go ahead. Antimatter, anti-planets, because they would be made up of anti.
That's right. There should be anti-people.
I see.
Anti-love.
That poor girl, she says, I see. As he says, there should be anti-people, there should be anti-love.
CBS. But in fact, we see no evidence of that at all. So physicists say by
There's
right.
no anti-CBS?
There's no anti-matter at all. We see no evidence of that at all. Okay, so it doesn't mean the universe shouldn't exist, but I guess Mrs. is right. It means that the universe that you have taught us shouldn't exist and doesn't.
It doesn't exist.
We shouldn't exist. This means that at the instant of the Big Bang, there was a slight overabundance of matter over antimatter.
A slight overabundance, meaning everything that there is matter, and they can't find any of the antimatter. And there's a slight overabundance of the one, and no, there's not. There's a huge amount of one and none of the other.
Which is funny.
It's not a slight overabundance.
The word matter, it's like funny that they even use that word because it's like it's showing that the universe matters. And there's nothing showing that it doesn't matter.
Interesting.
AKA antimatter. I don't know. It's just funny that they have to use that word.
Antimatter.
And here we are
as
a consequence.
Yeah, here we
Now, why? This is one of the greatest mysteries in all of physics. We are clueless.
I want to get that clip right there. We are clueless.
Understand why. And like I said, if you want to win a Nobel Prize, figure this one out. Why was it there's a slight overabundance of matter over antimatter?
Yeah.
Slight.
All right. Well, tell us more about these experiments that CERN is doing to answer, or at least try to answer, these questions.
Well, they take an atom smasher and they take the energy out of it and put it into a bottle. It's called a magnetic bottle.
They take an energy smasher and take the energy out of it and put it into a bottle.
It's like a magnetic bottle, he said, right?
Now, there's people out there that would say they've done their own research. Clearly, you're taking energy out of the particle separator and putting it into a bottle.
You can actually trap anti-hydrogen, anti-electrons going around anti-protons. And when they measure the properties...
Just don't let it touch the jar, because then you're going to blow up half of, or no, all of Manhattan and, right, half of Connecticut.
But wait, he said that they couldn't find any anti-anything.
They obviously found anti-hydrogen.
Okay.
And they put it into a bottle, and it's got anti-things going around, but it doesn't touch the bottle, and obviously they don't touch it when they put it in there.
So an anti-thing just means something that eliminates the thing itself?
It should.
That's what that means?
I'm guessing.
So then if there was an equal amount of antimatter and matter, according to their theory, at the beginning, then it would have eliminated everything, not created something.
We'll get into it because Aaron Raw talks about this, which is why we start with this, and you'll learn more about it, I'm sure.
Hydrogen is exactly like ordinary hydrogen, except, of course, they would annihilate it if they touched each other. And that's so frustrating. You want to tear your hair out.
Right.
They were looking for an asymmetry between matter and antimatter. They find none. And so that's the mystery. Why do we exist at all? By rights, we shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
By rights, we should have been disintegrated at the instant of the Big Bang.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there are all kinds of theories out there, but what are physicists kind of focusing in on? Is there one theory, two theories that are kind of the main focus?
Well, the leading theory is something called string theory, which is what I do for a living. I'm one of the founders of the subject, in fact, years ago. But even string theory has a hard time because you have to sort of like put it in by hand. And we want the theory to naturally come out with this overabundance of matter over antimatter, which explains why we don't see anti-galaxies out there and anti-planets. But we have a hard time doing it.
This part is funny if you saw the video. This is a drone shot of a drone coming towards a building, and on the side of the building is written Antimatter Factory.
Which looks like a pinup banner that they just made.
Nobody has a convincing answer to this question. Why should we be here?
Wow. Okay. Well, I won't ask you to give us a 30-second rundown on string theory because I think it'll probably take longer than that. Maybe we'll have you back sometime. But Dr. Michio Kaku, thank you so much for helping us understand this, or at least ponder the question, why are we here? Thanks.
She laughs in his face right there. And thank you for helping us understand this nonsense.
Or at least still ask the question that everyone's still asking.
Yeah, it's insane.
Unbelievable.
So now we'll listen to a short bit just so we understand who is Aaron Raw, where is he coming from. This is a recent video he did called Everything from Nothing. So that's exciting.
That sounds unique and...
There's an old Chinese story about a Naga goddess, Nu Kwa. She created the first people out of clay. On the other side of the Pacific, Native Americans said that Coyote created the mountains and the rivers and made the fish therein. Of course, in the Middle East, the fabled creator was the Jewish volcano god known as...
By the way, just so you know, we're looking at, he is dressed like the Undertaker with some sort of overcoat garb thing and a buckle across his chest, two buckles. And his hair is flowing, I'm assuming due to a fan being placed in front of him during the filming of this.
Green screen, too, of course.
Green screen behind him. It's very
I just don't understand
scary.
The outfit. I mean, I wouldn't be making fun of it if he wasn't supposed to be... Or we're supposed to take him seriously right now.
I believe this is not like a...
Science.
Right. It's not like wrestling where you look at the Undertaker like that's a great character.
Right.
This is like actually he's wearing that.
He's wearing it and talking scientific things. So
Yeah, I don't really understand.
maybe it's his version of a lab coat. Who knows?
Is Jehovah, though there were a few other even older creator gods too. Believers never wonder what these gods were doing before there was a world to do things in, or where they came from, even though they all apparently came from the land of pure imagination. Initially, the religious position was that the earth was a flat disk divided into 4 quadrants, erected on pillars or columns like a map spread out on a table, and that it was covered by a giant crystal dome with windows in it because these primitive people thought that space was full of water and that these windows are where the rain came from. It was a common belief across Asia, with different religions positing that whichever god might cover the dome of the sky, stretching out the heavens over the firmament like a tent, as sometimes with the stars sewn into the fabric of the veil of night. But in the Jewish tradition, the stars were contained within the expanse of this dome, along with the sun and the moon and all the other planets, which, of course, were all much, much smaller than the Earth and even smaller than the moon. They didn't know that the Earth was just another planet, and they didn't know that the sun was one of the stars. They thought that the stars were tiny little things that had thinking minds and personalities, because that's the way the Bible describes them. Not kidding. And this wasn't just in ancient times either. I've actually met people like this. There's an awful lot of people today who still believe in this model, or another similar one without a firmament, where the sun and the moon and all the other planets are still smaller than the Earth and orbit around it. They also believe that the Earth is the first thing in the universe, the biggest thing in the universe, and of course the center of the universe.
Okay.
Because that matches our observations, by the way.
I totally agree with it, what he's saying there. That okay, we're the center, the focus, whatever. We'll leave it at that. Now he's going to tell us why that's not true.
I can't wait.
And even if they don't hold to such an extreme view, it is alarming how many religious people don't believe in outer space, but do believe that the Earth is flat. And there are dedicated religious apologists who accept that the world is round, but still believe that the sun orbits the Earth. There are also some who accept that the Earth orbits the sun, but think that our solar system is the center of the universe and that everything literally revolves around us. Then we discovered the Big Bang.
Sorry.
That is really a classic.
Then we discovered the Big Bang.
Who's we, by the way? Again, that's a hypnotism right there.
No, he has checked into everything. He has done all the research needed. He has discovered the Big Bang, obviously.
He was with the group that discovered the Big Bang. Wow.
Wearing that jacket, I'm sure.
See, that's
the
why
lab
he's
coat.
still wearing that outfit, because he's from the medieval times when they discovered the Big Bang.
I guess so.
That makes sense now.
Makes sense. I don't think that they had those jackets ever. I don't understand. What is the buckles for?
Well, there's a few theories going around.
I don't know. I can't imagine what you would have buckles.
They just seem nuisance-y, like a nuisance.
Well, yeah. I mean, couldn't you use just like buttons? Button up your jacket.
Well, the button looks like, okay, it's a jacket that he wore when he was a child, and when he got older, he wanted to still wear it, so he had to add the buckles in order to close it.
Oh, it grows with the person.
The buttons couldn't connect.
Would have been an awfully long jacket for a child, but.
Well, it used to be a trench coat, and then he turned it into.
Children's trench coat.
Yeah, and then he had to put the
I
buckles
haven't seen one of
to
those.
close it, though.
Interesting. I didn't know they existed. Children's trench coats.
Seems right, though.
I don't know. Not after Columbine. I wouldn't. I don't think it's smart to put children in trench coats.
Or buckles on old jackets.
No, I'm buying time because again, I thought it was break time, but I guess maybe it's not.
Oh.
Maybe I should learn how the clock
what
works.
does the time say up there?
Let's go look. Oh, we have a minute 35 before break.
So maybe we can watch a little more.
Let's listen to some more.
Because he discovered the Big Bang, right?
He discovered the Big Bang.
Astronomers saw that other galaxies were moving away from us fast enough to be redshifted in spectroscopy, such that it appears that the universe is expanding or inflating.
So if that's the case, where you look around and all you see is galaxies moving away from you, what is the center of that place?
You.
Mm-hmm. Now, granted, that it could also be, if you want to come up with theories, you could also say, well, what if we exist on some sort of a balloon, and as this balloon is blowing up, everything moves away from everything? Then you could say, oh, that's a possibility too. It's possible. You know, I'm not going to say that that's not possible. So then from there, you would have to go on and make observations and continue your research with both possibilities. Because clearly, one of them matches your observations. That's the one saying that you're the center. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Redshifts.
Hi everyone, it's Chris Gio here, founder of Truth Frequency Radio. It is with the deepest sorrow that I have to inform everyone of the passing of our shaman, teacher, healer, and fellow TFR host, William Whitecrow. William has been our guide throughout this journey, and him and Sue became like the parents we never had. We both learned so much from him, and he was on countless radio shows with us over the last 10 years, even hosting his own program, Quantum Quest. Jeran and I also share a very sacred bond with William, as he performed the Native American wedding ceremony for us on December 21st, 2012, which binded us together. As William was the sole provider, we would like to help out the family by covering the funeral expenses. Please visit tfrlive.com/whitecrow and you will be redirected to the GoFundMe page. Or you can click on the banner on our front page. Thank you so much for your love and support.
President Bush hospitalized, terror in Toronto. I'm Ann Cates. Former President George H.W. Bush has been hospitalized and is being treated for an infection just hours after the funeral for his wife, Barbara. Correspondent Jamie Gangel reports his family was concerned.
How he would deal with the loss after 73 years of marriage and such an emotional week. But I'm told Saturday night that he was doing very well, that he had dinner with his family. But then Sunday morning, he took this turn, and it was really a crisis.
The death toll has risen to 10, and 15 others were injured after a van drove into pedestrians along a busy Toronto street. Toronto Deputy Police Chief Peter Ewan says the motorist has been arrested.
We've located that vehicle. The driver's in custody right now, and he's been investigated to the events that took place this afternoon. I also want to offer my condolences to the families and the victims of this tragic event that took place.
The nomination of Mike Pompeo for Secretary of State will go up for a full vote after the Senate Foreign Relations Committee approved the nod along party lines and after a key Republican had a change of heart.
A one-time firm no, Senator Rand Paul broke the news on Twitter after heavy lobbying from President Trump. He tweeted, having received assurances from President Trump and Director Pompeo that he agrees with the president on these important issues, I have decided to support his nomination to be our next Secretary of State. The important issues are that the Iraq War was a mistake and the U.S. should get out of Afghanistan. The change of heart is short a positive recommendation for Pompeo. And yet Democrats led by Bob Menendez were unmoved. For Menendez, there was one very recent Pompeo error.
On North Korea, he didn't even let anybody know, even in a classified setting, that he had been there.
The full Senate, with perhaps help from some Democrats, could confirm Pompeo later this week. Bob Costantini, Capitol Hill.
On Wall Street, the Dow fell 15 points, the S&P 500 flat. I'm Ann Cates.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
Welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Before we went to a break, we were discussing the ways of the scientific world. And so RN Raw was just discussing his opinion that when you see galaxies all moving away from you, that it must be that we're part of a expanding universe and things are flying in every direction, and every galaxy sees the same thing from their vantage point of things moving in every direction away from them. So what was missed there, though, is the idea that seems to show, if you look at the observations, that actually the observer is in the center. because all galaxies are moving away from them. So now we've got two possibilities if we're talking about theories. One theory would be we're the center of the universe. The other theory being we're part of a expanding universe. Those are the two theories. So let's listen to Edwin Hubble, who is the one who discovered this phenomenon, and hear what he had to say about the conundrum facing the scientific world at that time. He says a thinning out would be readily explained in either of two ways. The first is space absorption. If the nebula were seen through a tenuous haze, they would fade away faster and could be accounted for by the distance and redshift alone. The second explanation is a super system of nebula isolated in a larger world with our own nebula somewhere near the center. In this case, the real distribution would thin out after all the proper corrections had been applied. Here's the point, he says. Both explanations seem plausible, but neither is permitted by observations. Okay, so he just gave two ideas that he thinks could be the case, but neither one of them are actually by observations. So then he says, the apparent departure from uniformity in the world picture are fully compensated by the minimum possible corrections for redshifts on any interpretation. No margin is left for thinning out. The true distribution must either be uniform or increased outward, leaving the observer in a unique position. But the unwelcome supposition of a favored location must be avoided at all costs. Such a favored position, of course, is intolerable. Therefore, in order to restore homogeneity and to escape the horror of a unique position, the departure from uniformity which are introduced by the recession factors must be compensated by the second term representing the effects of spatial curvature. There seems to be no other escape.
So he's basically saying the horror whole thing there, we cannot be the center because then all the shitty things I've done I'll have to be held responsible for. Basically, is what he's saying.
Yeah. Exactly. They don't want to be the center. And so rather than take two things, which are both shown by observations, and then discover which...
not shown by observation.
Well, no, those two things at the beginning, what he was saying is they could be these. The two things that are shown by observation could be, one, that we're the center, or two, that we're part of a expanding galaxy or universe where everybody on any planet, anywhere, would all see what we see, which is everything moving away from them.
Except I've never seen any galaxies move away from me, so I don't even know if that is an observation.
True. Yeah, we wouldn't know that. But I think that the conundrum they come to then is they have to choose which one, right? So you'd think they would start measuring, well, he just basically said that one has to be avoided at all costs.
Right.
So they dismiss one and they built the world on the idea that we're on a balloon that everything expands from, and that's it. Yeah. The other one that matched observations has been left behind and forever forgotten.
Because it
in
would
fact,
mean something that they don't want to be
right. In fact, it's made fun of. Yeah. If you dare say that you are the center of the universe or that we are in the center, it's laughed at because science is made up of what? Men. And these men who are scientists or who are in that science, they have a certain worldview, one that consists of there being no God. It's ridiculous what Christians think. It's ridiculous what religious people, it's primitive. And so their conception is there's no need for that, so it must be the opposite.
Yep.
Which is insanity. You know, one thing
that you say a lot, I don't know if you were just about to say this, but the whole, if all the atheists and science people, they say how dumb Christians are for believing in God and all this stuff. They're so dumb that, or whatever. And yet the atheists take what the Christians have said who God is. They've taken that as, well, then that must be who God is, and therefore I disagree, and therefore God doesn't exist. Well, if they're so dumb, well, then they obviously got the description of God wrong, probably. So you might want to go and look for your own thing.
Right. You can't just take a group of people that you think are ridiculous and primitive and then say their idea of blank is so bad that that thing must not exist.
Right.
That's not the way it works.
Yeah.
One thing I would say to atheists is, you know, they may think that there's no evidence for God, but if I ask them, do they believe that Leonardo da Vinci existed? They would answer, well, of course he existed. And I would say, well, how do you know that he existed? And they would say, well, we can go see paintings that he did. We can see writings that he did. And we can then observe the world and see that the things that exist, the works of nature, the beauty that it is, you have to then take the leap of faith that those things can be created out of nothing, even though you've never seen an example of that. And that's their leap of faith, that they are okay with believing, well, I can see this painting, the Mona Lisa, was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. whereas they can't grasp the fact that everything that you exist, everything that is, came from something, came from a mind. It could not have come from a car accident. Any car accident will always end up in junk, no matter what. You could slam them 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times.
Now, unless this car accident was between a semi-truck filled with test tubes filled with semen and the other truck was filled with test tubes filled with female human or the eggs, and then they crashed together. And
where are the
some
women's
of them smashed together, and some woman was driving the truck, and that entered her in some way.
Nope.
Okay.
Don't see it happening.
See, there you go. That would be the only possibility, and yet it's not even.
Crash them a few quadrillion times. I don't think it's going to take place, but you never know. I did see an episode one time of Maury Povich where a sister had said that she'd gotten pregnant because her brother.
Bath in the shower or something in
Yes.
the shower? Yeah, I
heard
remember
that.
that episode.
Yeah.
Was that? What happened there?
But it was clearly that they had had sex.
Yeah, right.
It was so bad. It was like clear.
He used the loofah or something or she used the loofah that he used to like jerk off in or something.
Yeah, and they like found this. It was so bad that it was like, I don't know if it was just fake or if they were just really trying to sell that as like the reason she was pregnant with his child. It was really bad. I do remember that. It was Maury Povich. One of the worst episodes ever. Oh man, that got me off track.
Oh, sorry.
So anyway, if you got a car accident, you're always going to have broken metal, disaster. There's never going to be an explosion that amounts to anything. Yet, if you're an atheist, you believe that this explosion did amount to much.
To matter and antimatter.
Yeah, and humans and animals and nature and trees and the trees that give apples and the trees that give oranges, and that's what you have to believe. So there is every bit of evidence is there. And if people are choosing not to accept it, but to accept the Mona Lisa, whereas if you ask me which one can be faked, well, you could clearly fake the Mona Lisa and say it's done by Leonardo da Vinci when it wasn't.
Yep.
But you can't fake the nature, and you can't do anything that it can do.
Yeah.
There's a classic joke. Don't know if I've ever told this on the show, but God and the scientist says, "Hey God, I can do anything that you can do. I've now discovered everything about the world. I've now figured out how it all works. I can create anything that you can create, probably as fast as you can." And God says, "I'll take that deal. Let's see how you do it." And he says, "Okay." And God says, "You go first." So the scientist bends over and grabs some dirt, and then God says, No. You got to use your own materials. So that's a very good joke. But kind of based on the same thing that they have to make that leap of faith that all this stuff came from nothing. And Aaron Raw tries to explain it here, and it becomes hilarious where they don't see that what they're describing is exactly what they're saying is ridiculous about other people. Simply because it's been told by their side, I guess it's okay, which is hilarious. I mean, they think like he said at the beginning of his little speech there, well, these Christians and these crazy religions never thought about what came before their God. But he's about to explain why the Big Bang is real or true, but what came before the Big Bang?
Right. Oh, but that's nothing because that is the
because something came from everything.
To the 10/100 millionth of a millisecond, they know.
Oh yeah, they know.
First moment. They know.
Right. They can just rewind the tape and play it back, but they still can't figure out how how Alzheimer's works.
So they can't
but
give
they
us
can.
a 7-hour spacewalk from 19.
It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Oh, by the way, I should update people on that before I forget. I have not received a response from NASA yet on that videotape. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, I did a Freedom of Information Act. I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago on the show. Then we talked about it on Globebusters, and immediately we got donations around $750 or $800 worth of donations to have that tape to go ahead and pay the $1,000 that NASA wanted to give me that tape. And so I replied to them and just said, hey, I just want to make sure if I pay you that we're going to get the tape. I wanted to make sure from NASA, and they haven't responded to 2 emails. So I did say I was going to call today. We did not, but I will call them tomorrow and try and speak to this girl.
Tax dollars, actually, not.
No, they're even taking more money from us, $1,000. So yeah, what we're looking for is a 7-hour spacewalk that is hard to find. I can't find it anywhere, and I think there's a reason for that. Wow. And they have charged us. They said it would be $1,000 because it will take somebody 13 hours or 14 hours to transfer a 7-hour spacewalk onto a digital medium. We talked about this all 2 weeks ago. It's ridiculous that it wouldn't be digital already. But I just want to make sure. What I don't want to do is take donations, get the $1,000, go to, and then them say, sorry, there's national security, and we lose the $1,000.
Well, if you lose it, then I mean, obviously the people will know, like,
yeah,
that was out of your control. Basically.
Yeah, obviously. So
they don't give you your money back. That's insane.
Well, I don't know if they do or don't. It does say, we found that one section that says they don't have to.
Right.
Because the person technically, for instance, let's say the person does the 13 hours worth of research, or not, I'm sorry, the 13 hours worth of transferring this, and then something inside that is a national security secret. Well, they might say, no, we found something national security.
And the worker already did the 13 hours, so you have to pay them for
right.
the work.
So, you lose the money. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to make sure. And then I also asked the person, well, what exact formats are things filmed in? Right. Which is maybe the question they don't want to answer. Because I'm trying to get, why wouldn't it be digital already?
Right.
How can it be?
Why can't I just view it if it's already part of the online archive?
Right. Whatever? It's ridiculous. The real Freedom of Information Act would be being able to walk into the building and say, hi, I'm a taxpayer. Yeah. You are a tax receiver. And here is what I'm looking for. And they should go put me in a room and I should be able to watch it immediately. Mm-hmm. Not with anybody watching it first. Otherwise, it's a criminal organization's way of protecting itself from you seeing their criminal activity. Yeah. Again, I mentioned this last week.
This is a great example. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah, just if Miss and I were running some drug operation out of the house, and we wanted to look like we were being very upstanding citizens, we would tell everybody, we have the Freedom of Information Act on everything that we do in this house, because we want to be open. We don't want to hide things from the world. Mm-hmm. So therefore, if you have any questions or want to investigate any of our paperwork, our finances, anything, simply submit a paper and give us 30 days to respond. And then after we respond, we'll tell you how much it will cost you in order for us to research what you want us to research, and then we will provide you with the answer, except for if it has something to do with our national security. That is what the Freedom of Information Act is, and we all accept it and be like, oh, they're open government.
And we'll give you any footage you want, but we need to reproduce it for you first.
Yeah, we need to watch it first and make sure that you don't see
no incriminating footage.
The van showing up with the drugs, and you don't see the,
It's so obvious. It's so simple.
It's so simple to see that, what a big joke to say Freedom of Information Act. Freedom of Information Act would be every paper is immediately filed online where you can go look at whatever you want. You don't have to give them a 30-day notice. Say, here, I'm looking into whether or not you're cheating us in this area. And they would say, okay, let us go and review that paperwork, and we'll get back to you within 30 days. Okay, we've looked at the paperwork, and here are the documents you asked for, and nope, we're not cheating you. It's like, well, thanks a lot.
Wow, thanks.
Thank you. You're such an open government. How dare I ever have questioned you?
Wow.
So back to Edwin Hubble again. He's talking about the horror of a unique position. It must be avoided at all costs, and this is the scientific world that we've been handed. And people think that because it went through the scientific method. Well, certainly nothing about saying something must be avoided at all costs, or it's intolerable, or there seems to be no other escape. That's not scientific method. No. That is your personal worldview. That is your personal thoughts and opinions being forced on others when you are in charge of science, or you are a part of science, which is then passed off to the world as truth. And George Ellis is one that said, possibly one of the best quotes that I've ever heard, where he talks about cosmology, right? And he says that that he could construct a spherical universe with the Earth being at the center, and you could not disprove him with observations. And he says, but cosmology uses these philosophical ideas in the models that they create. And he says he has no problem with that. That's fine. And he says, but what I want to get out in the open is the fact that a lot of cosmology tries to hide that, end quote. And once you've heard that, that should be the biggest eye-opener, that there's a science, cosmology, that's trying to hide something.
Now, this George Ellis is not a flat earther. He's not a conspiracy theorist. He's not anything that Aaron Raw thinks that.
Right. Well, you should play that part. I forgot that's right at the beginning, huh?
He's like, he's completely wrong and absolutely obnoxious.
He's a liar and a piece of junk. And let's continue on with more of this everything from nothing.
If you extrapolate backwards, then everything was closer together in the past, culminating in, or rather originating in, a single point where everything, and I mean everything, flew apart from there. Matter, energy, universal forces, natural laws, and even empty space and time began at that point.
And that's just a matter of fact, because scientists say so.
Yep.
So anyone asking about the state of the universe before it existed, or what happened before the beginning of time, obviously doesn't understand the question they're asking. It's like trying to travel to a point south of the South Pole. Religious extremists delight in saying that scientists have proven that the universe had a beginning, and they use that argument against the Big Bang. But the Big Bang is our proof that the universe had a beginning.
Oh boy.
Hmm?
The Big Bang is our proof that the universe had a beginning.
Okay.
Cosmologists, cosmogonists, and astrophysicists tried to work out what was happening, and they produced a model in which everything in the universe rapidly erupted from a small, hot, dense state roughly 13.7 billion years ago. This discovery was initially ridiculed as a Big Bang, but the pejorative name-calling stuck, and that's what we call it now.
Okay, thank you.
Understand that a goal without a deadline is just a dream, or a prophecy. So any proposed explanation has to have two things. It has to meet certain predictions that should only happen if we're on the right track. And there has to be some way to prove it wrong if we're not.
Okay.
And no one's ever found any data to contradict the Big Bang.
Holy smokes,
Have
folks.
we not? Is there evidence?
We just heard from Michikaku 2 seconds ago that there's plenty of evidence. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is the dumbest statement I've ever heard anybody make. How could you say that there is no... Oh, that's right. Elon Musk's. You can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
Right, so
Nobody can ever say that again, that is the dumbest statement ever made, unless it compares to, you can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
That's number one.
That's number one.
That'll go down in history.
Yeah, and I think Bill Nye's number two is it would cost more to fake the missions to space than it costs to actually do that.
That would be number two.
That's number two. This is number three.
So they worked out that if this hypothesis is correct, there should be a particular type of cosmic microwave background radiation to indicate that, and such was actually discovered to exist. It was a Nobel Prize-winning discovery in the 1970s, and it implies that the universe really is expanding, and apparently has been since the literal beginning of time.
That was really good effect. Okay, so they found the WMD map, which is the background radiation, and he forgets to mention the fact that it is lined up with the Earth, that it has the same symmetry as the Earth, which would be impossible in any Big Bang explosion, but wouldn't be impossible if we were the center.
Right.
If we were the center of everything, if basically the Earth was the center of creation, meaning everything expanded from the Earth, then you would have exactly what he's talking about. But of course, if you've already dismissed something as intolerable, as impossible, as a horror of a unique position, well, then of course you don't look into that.
There's some talk of the singularity being a favorite component of that explanation, but physicists aren't really entirely certain about that. What they tell me is that they don't know anything prior to 10 to the negative 43rd seconds after the Big Bang, if in fact that is...
Wait, did he say that? Hold on, I'm going to rewind that just a second.
Negative 43rd seconds after.
10 to the negative 43rd?
Wouldn't that be behind?
The physicists aren't really entirely certain about that. What they tell me is that they don't know anything prior to 10 to the negative 43rd seconds after the Big Bang, if in fact that is a fair description of what that is.
10
but they
to
say
the
they actually know everything after.
10 to the negative 43rd seconds after the Big Bang. So, I mean, just so people know what that means, it means you could place 1.0 is 1 second.
Okay.
And then to the negative 43rd means to take that decimal point and move it 43 times to the left. So you would then have decimal point 42 zeros and then a 1. And supposedly physicists know what happened from that point on, but don't know what happened prior to the 10 to the negative 43 seconds. I mean, and to think, do you think he's done research on that to prove that? Do you think
he talks to physicists? That's his research.
Because they told him. Yep. Yes, indeed, indeed. All right, let's move on to the other video. I don't know if there's anything else really captivating in here.
Oh, there is. Keep going.
No. Is there in this one, or just the one that?
Oh, the one that you were in. Oh, yeah.
Yes, we'll go to that one so we don't get too far out of place. And let's let the beginning start. And I wanted to start with, they kind of gave me an opportunity to, sort of, to kind of say my piece, and which I do, and then this guy says his piece, and then I get into the beginning of them asking me, hey, so tell us about why you believe in the flat earth. Just probably top that he needs to get up
flat, and then maybe you can kind of address them point by point.
Sure. Well, I guess I would start off with a quote by George Ellis, who's I'm sure you know who he is. By the way, that sound was him popping a bottle, because I guess he drinks alcohol during discussions.
And I'm not sure if I've seen anybody pop a bottle like this before. Was it right in front of their face? Pop it, and put the cap down, and keep the bottle in front of your face. And
it's very impressive that you're drinking.
He's very much showing everybody that he's about
mainstream
to drink.
physicist, very cool. Probably top 10 in the world. I don't know, somewhere around there.
And
never heard of him.
Never heard of George Ellis?
Go ahead.
So that's how it starts. Is he says, after I talk about George Ellis, he says, never heard of him.
He's a scientist in the mainstream.
Yeah, and I believe he's like won a bunch of awards, and he's got numerous accreditations. Not anything in the flat Earth world. He completely believes differently than I do. I try to go to where these guys want to play on their playing field. Yeah. He said that he's talking about he can construct a spherically symmetrical universe with the Earth at its center, and that through observations it would be impossible to disprove that. And he says what he wants to get out in the open is the fact that a lot of cosmology tries to hide that they're using philosophical ideas to create their models. And he said that's fine by him, but he just feels like he needs to get out that a lot of cosmology tries to hide that. So when you hear that as a backer of science, that a science, cosmology, is trying to hide something from people, shouldn't that be an eye-opening quote to why would there be a scientific enterprise like cosmology that is a lot? He said a lot of cosmology tries to hide the fact that their models are based on philosophical criteria. That to me was a big eye-opener.
Yeah, the two ways that I would address that is, one, it's bullshit, and two, he's lying.
All right. So right from the beginning, I knew, okay, well, this is going to be interesting. One, it's bullshit. Two, he's lying. Right. Okay, this is a person that is a physicist. He actually does the work that you believe in. And now just because he says something different than you believe in.
Because he thinks that you're referring to someone who believes what you believe. That's why.
Yeah, it must be. Because he didn't hear what I said, obviously, or wasn't listening at all. So, yeah, that's a good start.
I mean, it's easy to disprove a model like that is inconsistent with every other model, with everything else we see, obviously is going to be a problem. Now, I've understood, and I've seen this documented by people who are pro-science, that if you can defend almost any one of the arguments for a flat Earth, as long as you isolate it to that one argument and don't observe anything else.
Yeah, so he wasn't listening, because now he's talking about you can argue that wasn't the point. The point was that cosmology is trying to hide the fact from you that they base their models on philosophical ideas, like the fact that we are modest. We don't ever want to assume that God would have created us for any reason. We must be nothing. We must be a speck of dust, courtesy of Mr. Sagan.
But once you begin to observe other things, well, then everything comes apart. I mean, for example, I'm interested in what model you have. What is it that you're embracing so that we can examine what's wrong with it?
Oh, okay.
Well, so we can put everything onto me as to what the flat Earth is, how it works, how it all operates. And the reason I say this here is because I didn't know I was coming on to defend all of flat Earth. I thought he wanted to have a discussion with me about my beliefs.
He tricked you.
So let's continue with that one.
Yeah.
Obviously, I haven't had nearly the amount of study.
Have you had enough to convince you that the Earth is flat?
I'd had enough.
And you said your beliefs are your own, are they not?
They are. I was going to answer.
And you've had a reason enough for you to.
So far, that was him just peppering questions that I'm not allowed to answer, I guess.
Believe. So tell me what the reason is that you believe in, what the model is that you believe in. And
I believe that the globe is a complete and total lie, that it does not match observations, that it's completely against every sense that we have. To believe that you can see 25 trillion miles is an insane belief. To think that you're spinning on a ball at a certain speed, flying through space at 66,000 miles per hour around a sun that's 1.3 million times as big as the Earth, that is an insane belief.
So the entire argument is that all of the available data is incredulous, and that's it. You don't have a model?
So I guess I didn't know what the question here is. What do you mean, what do I have a model? Yeah, obviously believe that the Earth is a level plane. Sure, I have an idea of what I think the Earth is shaped. I think it's a plane. It's a plane of existence. It's got peaks and valleys, ocean floors, and tall mountains.
So is it an eternal plane?
No, I wouldn't say so. No, I'd say that it ends at a certain point.
So do you have a reason to believe that it is either a finite or eternal plane?
Because water shows me that it doesn't curve. Granted, I understand the global mindset. We'll be right back. We'll continue on with more of this nonsense. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night, Jeran bashing.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
Several years ago, I was developing a very severe situation. I called it my flippy heart. It was doing not good things, and I did not want to go to a medical doctor because I just knew they would give me a cover-up pill. I didn't want to get onto that sort of thing at all. When I learned it was garlic and cayenne is a healer. It is a wonderful herb. I said, I think I'm onto something here. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be without it. It did wonderful things for me.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at naturesyouth.com. Naturesyouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at naturesyouth.com. That's naturesyouth.com. That's naturesyouth.com.
Hey everyone, this is Phoenix of Phoenix Rising Radio. Now is the time to lift your mind higher. Now is the time to rise above. How do you do this? Easy. Join us every Tuesday and Thursday evening at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern right here on Truth Frequency Radio as I explore and report the realities that we all face day to day, while also presenting higher solutions that you may use to change your world. Knowledge is power, and now is the time to power up. So be sure to join us every Tuesday and Thursday evening at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Truth Frequency Radio. And remember, wherever you are, make it TFR.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Let's go to the phones real quick. We have our regular caller from Niagara Falls. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. What's up?
Hey, Jeran. How you doing?
Fantastic.
And Missa, it's great to have you back.
She is in the restroom, but I will tell her.
And that was a missed opportunity. Anyway, just that interview with The Undertaker wearing the Klingon outfit.
Yes, the Minister of Darkness.
Yeah. Yes. It was so hard to listen to. I'm sorry, but
it was impossible to be part of. Yeah.
And the concept of, so if you live in BC and go to Niagara Falls, where I live, and then you go back to BC, therefore you've crossed the entire continent. Because he kept on saying that. Like, you go halfway and you turn back, it doesn't mean you go all the way out east, because I've never been out east. I've been
I'm
out
glad
west,
you
but
realize
I've
that,
never
yeah.
been out east.
A lot of people, I don't know if they notice
And-
that they think that is circumnavigating. They don't understand the difference.
No, you walk the way you went and the way you went back, and yeah, it's so annoying.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to. We're certainly not going to get through the whole call. I mean, I have a couple parts that I want to show, but yeah, I can't even. And to be honest, this is like the first time I've heard it back because I can't even listen to it. It's terrible.
I don't blame you, man. Like, as soon as it came on, I was like, "How long is this going to go?" You got to be kidding me.
That's kind of how I felt
This guy
being
knows
part of it.
nothing.
I was like, man, how? Well, and the way I look at it, and I, mentioned this on Globebusters, but to me, because a lot of people would ask, why would you put yourself through that? Why would you? And the way I look at it is, nobody who is a flat earther, in my opinion, would watch that and walk away saying, oh, you know what? That guy gave me some evidence that's going to make me question my beliefs. And that's the way I feel about that's why I'm willing to talk to any globe earther, and that's why I tell people to watch Red's Rhetoric videos and Wolfie videos, because I don't think that they put up good arguments for the globe. I think the more you hear somebody talk about it, the more you'll hear that it's just a matter of words and ideas. It's like a metaphysical belief. It's not reality.
Yeah, the more you look into it, the harder it is to deny. Like, it's
the harder it is to what?
So ridiculous. Deny.
Oh, I see.
The fact that there's no curvature and there's no spin and everything.
No, it does get really hard to go back. I can't picture anything. And really, when you start really looking at it, there's so many pieces of this puzzle that you could unravel that should tell you that something's wrong. Like the fact that we have no headcam footage of somebody going to the space station, that there's no 24-hour view of the Earth, that there's no camera on the moon facing the Earth. There's so many things that should make you go, huh? I mean, anybody who still believes in the moon landing, to me, that's evidence of, I don't know what you would call it. It's like a stubbornness to actually think and look.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yep, absolutely. It's just
cognitive dissonance.
They were taught it. It must be true. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
there's so many things that would be the case, and you would not go 60 years or 50 years without going further than 250 miles if you had been 245,000 miles. It just would never happen.
Yeah.
So what's new with you? Anything else?
Yeah. Actually, I missed Globebusters yesterday because I was hanging out with Scuba Johnny Hamilton.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So we had a little meet up in Hamilton, and for Flat Earth Day. So.
Well, lucky for you, the Globebusters is still available. You can watch that.
Well, I watched it last night.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I definitely watched it last night. But this coming week, because I think you know that I do your simulcast thing that isn't necessarily agreed upon. But again, I take it down after a week before it goes.
That's good. I don't
TFR
think there's any problem with that.
Archives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope not. But either way, next week you can blame Mark and Patricia because they're doing a meetup in Toronto, which I don't know if you've heard about Toronto in the news today. That's just crazy.
What happened today?
But just like in the UK, a van went off the road and went through the sidewalk, didn't take out. It apparently, according to the news, killed 9 people, and there's another 16 or so in the hospital.
I brought it up here. This is just recently then?
Oh, today, yeah, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time.
Okay.
This
I'm reading it now.
Happened.
supposedly killing 10, injuring
the police
15.
Officer didn't. Yep, but the police officer didn't take the guy out because apparently he was like holding his cell phone and aiming his fingers. And this is all secondhand news I heard after I got home from work, and so yeah, you got to take it with a grain of salt because I don't know what the heck happened. But I do know somebody that works at the hospital who I have not talked to. And
Interesting.
She's cool. Like, she's okay. She's safe. But just being somebody who's interested in things. And then you got Mark and Patricia coming next week.
Are they going for the film festival?
Yep. It just makes me question my head as far as I don't know what people could be planning, or not planning against them,
right?
But just to scare people away from this film festival.
Well, do me a favor. Can you call back next week and talk to your friend that works at the hospital? And I would love to hear back what they have to say.
Next Monday is the meetup that
okay,
they're holding.
Got you. You just said that.
So I'm sure I could call you from the place, but I just
or maybe
won't
the
have
following
my,
weekend.
my thing going.
Yeah, maybe just the following week too.
Well, no,
Either way.
Well, definitely.
Okay.
You know, I'm gonna be hearing. You're gonna be hearing from me.
Okay. Well, if you talk to her and you want to call next week because I'm sure everybody would like to hear at least her say no, there was real victims that came in, or no, or what exactly took place there. Yep,
I will definitely talk to my friend and see what the heck happened, and what she knows, but she's not like an ER person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she just works at the hospital.
Right.
So, I mean,
well, it's worth talking to her just.
You're
to
gonna read the news feed.
Right.
But.
All right. Well, we do appreciate the call, and have fun next week at your meetup. And are you going to check out the film festival or no?
I don't have days off during the week. I just don't have the luxury, so I had to pull strings to get the Monday off. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate the call.
That's why I won't be able.
I am a little bit nervous myself about that film, just because they put my picture on the front of it, or at least it's like one of the main pictures on it. Not real happy about that. But they came with us and filmed both of our attempts at the experiment, both times failing because we still can't keep the beam at a small enough diameter. And I hope they don't make the video about those failures.
Well, the description doesn't make it sound like...
No, the description sounds good. Yeah, the description sounds...
would make it sound good, you know.
Exactly.
They don't want people to think ill of their diet.
And I guess they did invite Mark and Patricia there, or at least from what I can tell. So I don't think they would invite him there and then show him a video that kind of bashes them. So it should be good. It'd be interesting to see. But it's good exposure. It's the one I'm talking about is at the Hot Docs Film Festival, which is kind of like the Sundance or the, basically a bunch of documentaries or indie movies are played there. And the one that's including the movie called Behind the Curve is coming out at the end of this month. I think the 30th or something like that. So it'd be interesting. I told Mark, please call me and tell me right away how much of me is included. And hopefully it's not as bad as I assume. But even if it is, I think we want to get out the information. That's all I've ever wanted, is for people to at least question where they live, because it's something that we never were able to do. And something that I think people should do. And if you come to the conclusion that you live on a globe, if you listen to Aaron Raw and think that he gives sufficient evidence for you to believe in the spinning space rock, then that is okay with me. Yeah, it's okay with me. I can't stop you from that. So let's continue on and hear a little bit more. We won't listen to too much more, but just a few points. There's no evidence.
There's no evidence that water would be level in a finite measurement.
Don't you know what that means? On a globe?
On anything. Flat Earth, round Earth, the water would be level, right?
Water's level, correct.
Okay. And even on a globe, if we're only going to measure 6 to 8 inches of it, then water's going to be level, right?
Correct.
Okay. And it doesn't matter if you're in an airplane or on a mountain or on any part of the globe, it would still be level that few inches, right?
that view. Sure. Yeah, I guess it would be.
So when you're standing in a position, wherein, and I know you've got to have heard this before, and I'm stunned at how you don't have a counter argument for these.
So here he's going off into
non sequiturs.
Yeah, I'm stunned that you don't have a counter argument for these. A counter argument for what? What have you said that needs? What am I countering? You said, would the water be flat if we're measuring 8 inches on a globe? Well, yeah, I guess so. If you're talking about in a bucket of water, if there's only 8 inches of water and you're measuring that, yeah, it'd be flat no matter what size the globe was.
Well, I think, here's the thing: a globe, it would not be flat. That's the whole thing. There should be a curve of water, and there isn't one.
But if you're talking about measurements of like an Earth as big as they say the Earth is, imagine if you got a little cup of water, that cup right there, the liquid in there, you could not measure that it's curved if the globe is as big as the Earth is.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It would just be, yeah, sure. Okay, if you're measuring that much. So then he says you don't have a counter argument for this. Counter argument for what?
And then he's about to say like 8 different things.
It's like, what are you talking about? Couldn't even hang. Like, what do you mean?
You don't have a model to establish the counter argument for these.
For what?
When you're standing on a shore and you watch the masts of a ship disappear last, or when you're on a ship and you're approaching the shore and you watch the top of the lighthouse first before you see the base of it, or when you're in a car and when you're driving along and you see the top of the mountain first, and the mountain rises as you get closer in the globe, and you can see more of the mountain as it rises before. You can see the globe of the Earth just on a road trip. You don't even have to be in an airplane. So how is it that you not see this? How do you account for these?
I would ask the same question back. How have you not seen the evidence that boats do not go over the curve?
Because I have seen the evidence of the boats going over the curve. So I can't see the evidence of the not evidence that I have seen.
I'm sorry, that's the greatest.
That was good stuff.
I cannot unsee which I have seen of the things I cannot see.
So this is unfortunate that you've got something that Flat Earth has pretty well debunked.
Or at least that we have, in terms of our observations, we've been able to see that is untrue, and yet this shows how much research is done there.
Yeah, the big video that I think people fail to see, or people don't want to look at, and I don't mean people, I mean globe believers, is to go to Phuket Word's YouTube channel and pull up the video. I'm pulling it up right now so I can get the name correctly. And it's PHUKET, and second word is word, so Phuket Word. And the video is called, and I'm bringing it up now for you, because I think it's important to watch, and because I always look at observations. I like video observations, things that I don't get from NASA, observations of planets and things. They show me CGI, whereas other people can show me actual video proof, or what I think is video proof. Let's see here what the name of this video is. It's called Seeing Imaginary Curvature on Flat Earth, and I'll drop this link into the chat for people. But if you go to about 6 minutes and 41 seconds or so, you will see that he is bent down, and he's showing you that on this very flat and level bridge, that by getting down, you then see the horizon distort with the background behind it. So you're seeing here as he zooms in, now clearly we just saw where he was, that this is what happens, and the actual line of the horizon is far behind that. Yep. So let me drop this into the chat for people who want to see what I'm looking at. And then what happens, it's very interesting, is a bike rider comes along here pretty soon, which is pure luck that it would happen, because he's just filming this bridge and showing that exactly what we see from Soundly and other people, showing that is supposed curvature, is simply shown to be not. And here you got, I'm now at 6:57, and we're watching a bike rider who is going off into the distance, riding into the mirage layer, or what we see boats do. Now, in a boat over water, the difference would be that the reflection that you see would be of more water. So it's just going to look like water going further and further and further back until you...
looks just like that.
Kind of looks just like that, right?
There's no difference.
Well, but there would be water in front here. Water, and then you have that little layer, right?
But that mirage layer is going to be almost identical.
Correct. Now, as you watch this bike rider ride off, pretty soon you see his legs disappear. In fact, you see his shirt reflected in the water behind him.
His mast, so to speak.
Right.
The bottom of his bike is disappearing first.
Correct. And you would still see his sail. We can still see his jacket, his shirt. Then they merge together. So now we're looking at just the shirt reflected off the shirt, and the legs and bike are gone. It looks like he is behind the curve. And really, we know that he's not. We just watched the whole thing take place. Now, of course, this is happening over a shorter period, whereas boats are very slow and lumbering when you're watching a boat go out to the ocean, that you wouldn't see it happen as fast as we just watched this happen. But then you see it start taking off, and that looks like the boat gets smaller and smaller and goes behind the curve. So the evidence is there, and we've seen it when we went to the beach and looked at boats going out, and we even saw them going out behind just waves to where the waves would cover the boat. Yeah. Then just this week, you and I did a test where we played with the meniscus, which is take a cup of water and fill it up to its brim and then continue to fill it. And you'll see that the water will actually rise up a good few millimeters. I think we had it at 2 or 3 millimeters off just that cup. Yeah. And then what we did is we were able to place, you can't just drop it in. If you go to drop a paperclip inside this cup, you will drop it to the bottom of the cup. But if you take another paperclip and kind of rest it on kind of the double hinged, kind of like a little boat, and you put it into the water, the paperclip laid on top, the paperclip will float, and it actually creates an indentation in the meniscus, causing, it's like the surface tension of the water is holding up that paperclip. So when you start to look at these kind of tests and experiments, you quickly realize why it is that we see boats that appear to be lower, that why it is that we see boats look like they're going over the curve. And then when you say, what would it look like if a boat actually was going over the curve, and you go looking for that evidence, there's none. There is no boat where you should see it going out to the shore, going out to the horizon, and then you see it actually disappearing because it's going behind the curve. You don't see that. What you see is exactly what we just saw in Phuket Word's video, which is a distortion and the bottom getting eaten first, which we know would be the case if that's the line of convergence. You're walking away from me, you're going off in the distance in a long hallway. The line of convergence is the horizon line, which is where your feet are. And so what will disappear first for a person walking away from you as they start to get to the line of convergence? Their feet will disappear slowly up to their head. You can't be their head that would disappear first. That's the furthest thing of their body from the line of convergence. So all the evidence is right there, and that's why it's frustrating, because as much as globe believers think that they have all the evidence and they've got all these scientists and they've got all the teachings, the observations say differently. And you're stuck, I'm stuck, Mrs. stuck in the predicament of, well, until you are willing to look at evidence, until you're willing to question what you've been taught, until you're willing to even think to yourself for a second, maybe I was lied to, maybe I've been fooled, it is possible to fool me, I don't always know everything. If you can't do that, then you'll never see the other side of the coin.
And he even said it. He's like, he's like, the things I don't see are what you're describing. I know what I've seen, and they're not what you're saying.
Right.
So he's
and
not
it's as if he thinks that you can't be fooled by telling somebody something, and then they see the world that way, which is how our world works. That how we're told things operate is what you believe. Just like as children, none of us questioned the Santa Claus story, even though you saw houses without chimneys. You maybe had an alarm system on your house. There's lots of things that would make somebody say, hey, wait a second. What you're saying doesn't meet reality. But we don't, because we've been told that it's true from somebody we consider an authority or somebody we consider should be lying to us. Yeah. And so what you do as a child is you just believe it. And everything that you see, you believe. I remember going and who is this? This is a Santa. Why isn't he at the North Pole, the one you take a picture with? And they would say, your parents say, oh, that's a helper. And, everything that they told you, you just believed.
Yeah, they made up some bullshit to
get
you to keep believing him.
And so we have to recognize that just because somebody says something, that's not evidence of anything. So because people think that the Earth's a ball and they think that boats go over the edge, when they watch the footage that we might be watching, they see a boat going over the curve. Granted, they don't recognize that. So we believed that too. So we used to believe what you believe. Now we're able, with this new information, to look at it with an open mind and say, okay, what's really happening? I just saw Phuket Word's video. I watched what happened to the bike as the bike went off in the distance. I'm now going to go watch a boat video and see what I see. Does it more closely match what's happening in the bike video, or does it more closely match what would happen if a boat went over the curve? And clearly, it's identical to the Phuket word video. And so from that, then you should go out and do some more investigation. Do what we did with the meniscus. Go out to the actual beach and watch how quickly do I lose boats. And then when you see boats lumbering along with waves that are right in front of you, passing over, not right in front of you, but let's say the distance that you're looking at the boat.
They're closer to you than the boat is.
Right. The waves are halfway to the boat. Yeah. But those waves can actually completely cover the boat. Mm-hmm. Well, the boat's not underneath that.
The boat isn't in the middle of a storm being
right.
covered. Well,
no. And then you can go even expand more upon that and say, okay, well, where is the where would be a lower part of the water if you kind of think of the ocean and you say, well, they do say that hot and cold water is heaviest. So where is the ocean the coldest? It's in the middle of the ocean or the further away from the shore. So you're also recognizing that if the water close to the shore is the warmest, that would actually have the most volume, and the heavier water, the more dense water, would be the cold water in the back. So again, there's just little hints that boats might appear to be lower in the back of your view versus the boats that are close to you, close to the shore, on warm water. You look at the meniscus, like we talked about, now you're able to float something in water, that the paperclip actually is inside the meniscus because it creates a dent that you can see for yourself. Go do it right now. Take any cup of water, fill it up past the line, and set that paperclip on top, and you will see the paperclip has created an indentation in the water. Now that scales up. Sure, it's only 3 millimeters here in the cup, but if you got to something larger, would that grow? Would the amount of space that something could sit inside, does it explain all of boat floating? Or do you go back and you believe what you've been told, and that you have to have the equal weight versus the displacement? Which makes sense. It's just another way of wording it.
Yeah.
But when you're able to sit that paperclip on that meniscus, there's so many things that start to open up to you that just come from saying, I'm just going to look into these things that I was taught and told. Mm-hmm. Just going to play with them a little. And what you'll start to discover will be that not everything we were told is necessarily the truth. It's simply what they put in textbooks. It's simply what they taught you to believe. And it doesn't make it true. And I can't go to people's houses and say and yell at them to do that. My only goal is to at least get them to consider it, because I don't think anybody does.
True, I think individual freedom is in order to be freed from the lies that we're all taught.
Absolutely, it's and then to believe what you believe for your own reasons. I mean,
not because
10 times different feeling of our life just being where I am now to where I don't claim to know anything. I don't claim that I have the truth about anything. What I claim is that at least I believe what I believe because of things that I've seen and reasons that I've come up with, not because it was in a textbook.
You built your own belief.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's so freeing. I can only tell you to try it. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else to tell you, but it certainly is a better feeling than the feeling I had of being completely at the, and I will change a little part of that. It's not a better feeling because I almost feel like I felt smarter before. But I mean, many of the great philosophers have said that the first step of knowledge is realizing you know nothing. Mm-hmm. Because I think that and this is why I say science is a excuse or an easy way for idiots to look smart or to feel smart. Mm-hmm. Because you don't need to really know anything.
No, you just need to know the words.
You need to know the words, how to put them together, how to say orbital mechanics. You don't need to know anything about it. You don't need to know about the crazy speeds that we send 65-year-old women at in objects much, much larger than a bullet, yet going 10 times as fast as a speeding bullet. Yeah. We don't need to understand all that. We just need to say the word orbital mechanics and laugh at people who say anything differently. Mm-hmm. We just need to know the so-called distance to the sun, and that's all we need to know. We don't need to look into the fact of how fast that sun is supposedly moving around the galaxy. We don't need to know how fast the galaxy is moving around the great attractor. We don't need to know the size of the great attractor. Once you start getting all those things, you'll see it. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Truth Finding Something. If we're really just born to die.
Hi everyone, it's Chris Gio here, founder of Truth Frequency Radio. It is with the deepest sorrow that I have to inform everyone of the passing of our shaman, teacher, healer, and fellow TFR host, William Whitecrow. William has been our guide throughout this journey, and him and Sue became like the parents we never had. We both learned so much from him, and he was on countless radio shows with us over the last 10 years, even hosting his own program, Quantum Quest. Cherie and I also share a very sacred bond with William, as he performed the Native American wedding ceremony for us on December 21st, 2012, which binded us together. As William was the sole provider, we would like to help out the family by covering the funeral expenses. Please visit tfrlive.com/whitecrow and you will be redirected to the GoFundMe page. Or you can click on the banner on our front page. Thank you so much for your love and support.
Bush hospitalized, terror in Toronto. I'm Ann Cates. Former President George H.W. Bush has been hospitalized just hours after his wife Barbara's funeral. Correspondent Jamie Gangel.
He was admitted to Houston Methodist Hospital and that he is in intensive care.
A statement from his office says President Bush is responding to treatment for an infection that spread to his blood, and he appears to be recovering. The death toll has risen to 10 and 15 were wounded after a van plowed into pedestrians on a busy Toronto street. Correspondent Jason Carroll reports the suspect is under arrest.
After the van had careened down the sidewalk for about a mile, the driver, wearing all black, taunts the officer, repeatedly seems to simulate drawing from his waist over and over again. The officer using incredible restraint, able to take the suspect in custody. That suspect is being questioned now.
U.S. security sources tell Reuters that terrorism is the likely motive behind the attack. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee has approved the nomination of Mike Pompeo for Secretary of State, which goes to the floor for a full vote.
President Trump tweeted support for his nominee via a resume check. Mike Pompeo's CIA success has come from proven experience. He has been a U.S. cavalry officer, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, and graduated first in his class at West Point. Chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, Tennessee's Bob Corker.
He has a very good relationship with the president. That is somewhat different than the last three secretaries of state.
As for his change of heart after heavy lobbying from the White House, GOP Senator Rand Paul.
I haven't been given anything or promised anything. I don't get a bridge built somewhere. But I have asked that we consider liberty of the individual and the Constitution.
Paul said the president and Pompeo reassured him enough. Bob Costantini, Capitol Hill.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 14 points, the S&P 500 flat, the Nasdaq down 18. I'm Ann Cates.
You must unite what has been set asunder.
We are TFR, Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Let's check the phone lines and see if we've got anybody waiting. Looks like we've got one person, possibly. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hi, this is Jake from
North Carolina.
What's up, Jake?
Hey, what's going on, man? I really get aggravated with the same old guys talking about the ship disappearing over the curve. I get tired of hearing that argument over and over. Yeah, so it's so frustrating.
It's like if
I'm
we
to
just
the point
were,
of anger now, man. It's just,
well, it's like if we just were playing on the same playing field, then that's great. Like, let's look at observations, let's say what they are or are not, and then let's build from there. And we can't even get to that point. So it's kind of frustrating because it's like, well, man, how are you ever going to convince somebody of anything if you can't even get on the same page with these observations? I mean, yeah, we can argue all we want whether pictures from space are real or fake. That's something that I understand it's going to be a tough sell. I think they're fake. Somebody else thinks they're real. Okay. But when we're actually looking at real world observations, I feel like we should be able to come to an agreement about what we see and don't see by looking at other evidence like that case here, or the Soundly bridge that's supposedly bending. There's other things we can look at to show what it is or isn't, and we should be able to come to at least a decision. I'm glad that they at least got to the point where they no longer say that things spin down the toilet the opposite direction in the south. That was at least, but I mean, even things like that, again, it's like, well, why were we told that? If
I got one for you.
Yeah, go ahead, shoot.
I got one for you. I got a couple for you, but one is I found very interesting. I brought it back up in, I think, around 2004 in college. You notice in the northern hemisphere, or whatever you want to call it, people have blue eyes, and in the southern hemisphere, people have brown eyes. And people from the Mediterranean are in the middle or mixed with those two have green eyes. Now, my study of iridology, there's only 3 colors of eyes throughout the world. There's blue, green, and there's brown. Hazel's not a color. That's toxins and other things that's happened to your body. But if you look up in the sky is blue. If you look at the ground is brown. You look in between all the green trees. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. You may get my head spinning 1,000 miles. I'm just thinking too.
I know Mark Sargent said I blew his mind. So, there's a lot of things like this we need to look at. There's another thing I was thinking about. Of, mapping this Earth and the sun and how everything works, is have we looked at the deserts and the path they would take with the sun? Is the sun being focused on them and not directly above them going around?
Great point.
Or is it directly above them, making them hot during the day and very cold at night? Correct?
Yeah, and they have to be windy, I think, too, right? Isn't that why the deserts are sandy?
I think we can map this flat Earth by probably the deserts if we knew where the sun would be, if it was straight above the desert or if it was at an angle and the dome or whatever is focusing it on that part of the Earth during the day.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, it's something I never thought about. I've actually thought about these deserts before, but I never had thought about them being at a place where possibly the sun path is causing their weather patterns.
Yeah, the daytime when the sun's there, it's extremely hot, and then at night it's really cold. So is the sun focused at an angle and not directly above the desert? And is that making it really hot?
I'm writing that down. You're right.
From my understanding, the only thing that makes the land hot on the top is the sun, right? From my understanding. So that just makes me think that.
No, that's a great one. I've got that written down. That's a great... you have more of those?
The first one I think was really good. I think that's something we really need to study. And if you've ever studied iridology, man, you need to get into that. Don't get into the way off, making things up, but just the study of it. I think it was founded in the 1800s, probably way before then. But this little boy, he seen an owl caught in some vines in his garden. This is the story. Mm-hmm. And so he went out in the morning and he tried to pull the leg and get it out, and he broke the leg. Well, when he broke the leg, he seen this line shoot in the color part of the owl's eye, because the owl's eye is so big. So anything that happens to your body, if you have hazel eyes, you can correspond every organ, bone, every part of your body to the color part of your eye, and it's like a clock. So
So, in your opinion, maybe you don't have an answer for this, but what is your opinion of the fact that there are races of humans? Are they are they a descendant of one race, or are they, 3 or 4 or 5?
Just like just like I brought that point up, our environment, the people in the northern hemisphere probably see a lot more blue. Their eyes are blue. The people in the Mediterranean or in the middle, or mixed with blue and brown makes green. So the people in the middle, or where these two people would meet, they have green eyes. And the people below have brown. So our environment plays a big part of our body. We are from this earth. We are from this earth. And if we look at this earth, look at how things work, this is how our body works.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we see. We can observe this. I mean, you look at your eyes, people in the northern hemisphere see more blue. Am I not correct? I mean,
yeah, no, it's exactly.
Obviously, they see more blue.
And obviously, this is the place that we've been placed to live, and why anybody in their right mind would be trying to colonize another planet or thinking about that is ridiculous.
Right. I totally agree. And I don't know. I don't know if you're a believer in God. I believe in a creator.
Absolutely.
So I put that out there. I believe in a creator.
Oh, I think without a doubt. I mean, I don't think there's any question.
There was one other point I wanted to make, but I can't remember. I can't remember the other point. I wanted to make 3, but I can't remember. But
right, well,
our creator, our creator gave us the knowledge to look at these things and see them and observe them and know the truth. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
I think so too. Yeah, if you think of the other thing, call back. We got a couple other calls before you, but you get back in line.
All right, thanks.
Miss, I wish you were here for that call. What happened? Well, he was just, remember we were talking about eye color and stuff, and he was just pointing out that people in the north have blue eyes, and they see more blue sky, and people in the middle have green eyes, and they see trees and things like that, and then people in the south have brown eyes, and it's just crazy. I was like,
what about people like my grandpa has blue eyes, but he was born and raised here? So
we're in the north.
I don't have blue eyes.
No, but you're from the Philippines.
You're not.
I'm probably Spanish, and
north.
That's north. Mm-hmm. Italian, north. I don't know.
So
that's the question.
Then it comes down to something, probably a non-physical explanation. That's what I think.
Like?
Don't know yet.
Oh.
But because like you said, did you say this already? Saying like people have colored, eyes or whatever, but you don't see blue hair. You don't see. That was like a big thing to me. I'm like,
yeah,
that's true. No one has blue hair, so why is there blue eyes? I just thought it was weird.
The blue meanie has blue hair, but it's fabricated. Let's go to the next caller. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hey, what's up, Jeran? It's Ace.
Oh, hey.
Colorado.
What's up, Ace? How are you?
Good, man. Just listening from the Peanut Gallery over at Ginger Sugar Bush's channel.
Oh, you're on the simulcast?
I just, yes, sir. Yeah, I just started listening not too long ago. Just heard you talking about that quote-unquote debate or whatever the heck that was. That damn Bush. Yeah.
I do apologize to everyone for it.
So what about people with ginger eyes? Oh.
Yeah.
There are ginger hair.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I don't have anything, so you go ahead.
I have nothing either. You gotta have something.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, as far as I know, y'all were just talking about the debate with that Aaron Raw guy. Honestly, I think he's. Have you looked at his other work? He does debates, but it's always against people that go against like the state mainstream views.
Right.
Yeah, almost like he's an attack dog for the state propaganda in a way. It's very bizarre.
It is bizarre because it's just really not a very intellectual position, in my opinion, to just take the side of science, and then
Very easy.
it's very easy if you're going up against Christians, at least in my mind, and then it's because it's very easy to refute things that are based on faith, which is what science is, but they just dismiss that. But I mean, if you're talking about to a Christian, then I can see where it's an easy position. If my job was, Jeran, go out every day and debate Christians, it would be very simple, because you could just keep throwing things at them about the Bible, things that are based on faith, laughing at them, saying Noah's Ark doesn't exist. I mean, that's not an intellectual position to take. It would be an easy position to take, and that's how I look at what he does. It's easy.
Yeah.
Doesn't make them right.
What's in it for these guys? Just to feel better about themselves? I'm not exactly sure. But,
yeah, I guess it's that. And it's
yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just going to say it ended up being another debate today. I don't know if you heard with IPS or Infinite Plane Society. He debated some Glober. But Karen B was a moderator, so it ended up being like a structured thing. You know what I mean?
What channel was that on?
Instead of... it was actually through Discord, and then... I don't know. I think it was on the Flat Earth Network.
Okay.
I haven't double checked, but I just heard it live. I was actually at work, but I snuck on Discord to hear it.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean and the point is, he got the guy to admit that he's coming from a place of faith, and that's really what it boils down to, is trust and faith. The guy says, I didn't see nothing about the Tesla. Yeah, I heard everyone talking mess about it. But if they say that it's up there, then I believe them. It's like, that's not a point for a debate. Like that's actually the opposite, really.
Yeah.
It's like digging your own hole. But hopefully, people will see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully people will see what the heck happened with that Aaron Raw guy and realize, I mean, even if you believe the globe, like if you're not too far gone, you should definitely be able to tell what was going on. You know what I mean? If you're on the side of truth, there's no need for all that.
No.
Every
Again,
dirty trick in the book. Yeah.
I would feel terrible. I mean, it's bad enough to be a part of that and be the blunt of it, but I would feel bad if I thought, oh man, if any flat earthers were watching this, they may have been swayed and nothing about what he said swayed me in the least bit. So it's not like at the end of it I said, man, he had so many good points that I feel like now my flat earth belief is unfounded. All that things like that do is further show me what scientism has done and what that idea or that belief has done to people, where they just refuse to look at anything. They, think they could not possibly be wrong. And like you said, they're hypnotized. It's a position of faith. It really is. And how it was ever convinced to those people that it's not a position of faith is, well, it couldn't have been done without school books. Yeah. And the fact that when you look back at who created the public school system and you see it's the Freemasons and everything is just, you have to be willing to look into these things. You cannot just say, well, I'm going to take what other people have told me. I'm going to take what other people say is truth. You'll never find the truth that way. But when you go on your own, you'll start to see everything comes back as...
You'll see what's not the truth, at least.
Yeah, exactly. And I forgot who made the quote, but said, once you eliminate all that is untrue, you have left the truth. And that's basically the way that we have to attack it, is to keep getting rid of what's not true, and eventually we'll find the truth, hopefully before I perish.
Yeah. And that is the definition of the scientific method, to falsify. And all these people say, oh, science proved this or that. I'm like, well, then you're not a scientist. You're not practicing science. So if you're practicing science, Mr. Aaron Raw or whoever else is listening, you will try to debunk your current theory.
Right.
That's what you do. You don't try to prove it. That doesn't make any sense. You already believe it. So you want to strengthen your belief.
all the videos that are made that are proving the globe. It's like, we already know that's already been decided that is the fact. So what are you doing? It doesn't do any good to post those videos. You're not showing any evidence or proof.
Yeah. Well, shoot, man, I can't wait to see you guys in November. I know you're coming to my hometown, so
we will be there.
Awesome.
I like my weed sticky and gooey. So please. What?
I don't participate.
She participates. She's a liar.
Okay. You know they offer it in a syringe form that looks like honey nowadays.
I don't want that. Thank you.
Wow, I wouldn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Just give me the regular leaf.
I want to see where it was from.
All right.
All right. We'll see you soon. We'll talk to you. Appreciate the call.
Will do. Thanks, Jan. Yeah.
That's awesome. We have another caller. Do we have time? Yeah, we have plenty. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hey, what's up, Jeran? It's Josh from Oregon. I called in a few weeks ago. We talked about the equinoxes and.
What's up, Josh?
Bilu. It was fun. I just wanted to pipe in and give you my favorite moment from that debate, and that was when you guys were talking about the fabric of space-time, and you asked him, well, what is the fabric of space-time? Like, to substantiate what that actually is. And he was like, well, what is leather? And you responded with, well, it's cow. And he's like, no. And you're like, well, no. Leather. He's like, leather is leather. And you're like, no, leather is cow skin. And I just
that did it for me too.
I just lost it. I'm like, dude,
guy is a joke.
That was my favorite part of the whole thing. I'm like, you look like a complete moron. Like, leather is cow skin. It's not leather.
No, dude, leather.
And I didn't know those kind of answers were allowed. What is the moon? Well, it's the moon. I know that's okay. If that's an answer, I guess I'll just use that one from now on.
It was just so funny. He just looked so dumb. Like, and then I think he realized it was like, oh, and then just kind of moved on. Like,
yeah, there's a couple of points that I should have kept on to the whole thing with the Kanagawa. They were speechless on.
Well, he wasn't listening to you, so you couldn't really talk about much.
No.
And remember when he said something? He was talking about how he'd seen the moons of Neptune, and then he called him out, and he's like, "No, I mean Saturn.
I meant Saturn.
I've also seen." But you're like, "No, you were talking about Neptune." And like, dude, come on.
Oh, and then the new moon. He says he's seen the new moon, which is like, what do you mean? You saw the new moon? What did you stare at the sun and saw it?
No, that was the next thing that I just lost it when he was talking about seeing the new moon. I'm like, really? You've seen it?
And then at the end, I asked that commentator, that moderator, I'm like, can you please tell this guy he doesn't see the new moon? He's like, actually, I think people have seen it. I'm like, all right, I'm doing that.
That's when you should have left.
I'm done. This is over. No, and it was really sad that, like, the moderator, he wouldn't even jump in to say, like, hey, could you let Jeran finish, like, what he's trying to say? Like, he would just
never
let
said
him
it one
talk
time
over you. I'm like, not one time. And that just blew me away. I'm like, how intellectually dishonest can you be just to do a debate and then, or a conversation, however they want to say it, but like not let you respond and just ask 15 questions one after another. Wow.
Yeah.
Right. And then to say like,
unbelievable.
Well, you're not saying anything and you don't have any, it's like, no, you asked to have a discussion with me. So when I'm answering you, you asked why I believe what I believe. So you can't just say at that point, like, well, you don't have anything that you asked me here. I didn't come to your house preaching.
Yeah. Exactly. Leather is leather, Jeran. Leather is leather. That's what the fabric of space-time is. The fabric.
Yeah, never
that was quick.
They always show kids. They always show children. Yeah. Sorry, not kids. They always show children where they throw those balls around the blue piece of fabric, and then the balls orbit each other. And they're like, "Oh, and this fabric is the fabric of space-time." It's like, no, but where is that in heaven? In the sky? Where is that?
It's fabric of space-time, but it's short for fabrication. It's the fabrication.
It's a fabrication of space-time.
Yeah. Oh, I had one other question for you. I've noticed that with like space cosmology and the numbers they use a lot of 666s. They like that number for some reason. But something that I've also noticed is that they seem to be like changing in the numbers. Now it's not 66,000 miles, it's 67. And now, with the moon, the distance to the moon is it used to be 237,000 miles away. But then after like the documentary Room 237 with, the Stanley Kubrick, admitting the moon landings. Now it's 238,000 miles. Have you noticed that they change those numbers and kind of move them around?
Yeah, but I don't know how much of that is to do with them actually trying to get off the numbers that people would see something through, or how much is just because everything's changing. I mean, the moon ranges in distance according to them, so you really can say anything you want as long as it's within that 225 to 245 or whatever. So I wonder how much is that. Yeah. But no, I have noticed the 66,600 is something that used to be the case, and then now I hear them say 67,000. But clearly they don't care about the 666. I mean, have you seen CERN's logo?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that.
Well, it's like the Google Chrome logo too.
Absolutely.
It's the 666.
Absolutely. So it's like they don't even care. And then I saw Neil deGrasse giving a speech at the World Government Summit or something the other day, and behind him there's this logo of the government, new government summit. And right when I saw it, I said, I bet you anything there's 13 lines on that thing. And sure enough, you count them, there's 13.
Right.
And you can start to see that they're doing these things clearly on purpose. Because if you actually were scientific and you were trying to get people not to believe in religions and not to believe in superstition, then you would make a point to say, we need a logo for the World Government Summit. Whatever you do, don't make it 13 bars.
Don't put this.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but they wouldn't just go purposely do it. Just like the CERN logo. Have you seen the CERN logo?
Yes, it's 666.
Yeah, it's like, well, why would
you
do that?
I think they do it because to make fun of religion. That's what they do. I think essentially they do. I mean, not essentially. I think on one of the surface levels, they think it's like a joke. Like, we'll put 666 in there.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah. It's like the Taco Bell logo. Have you seen that? It's like it's the 666 in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy that they do so much of that. It's in a lot of the logos.
All over the place. It's pretty weird. I just noticed that the numbers with the cosmology seems to change, and they say oh well, we're this distance from the moon, it's shifting back and forth, but it's pretty weird.
You can't even say if somebody said how far is Jupiter from the Earth? Well, it depends. Right, yeah, it's like you could get vastly different numbers depending on when you're talking about, or so it just becomes. There could be a number in there. I mean, sometimes it's probably 666 million miles from Earth. So it just depends on when you're talking, because I think it ranges between 3 times the distance to the sun to 10 times. So that's where I think that sometimes you can pick certain numbers. That's why I have a problem with a lot of the numerology stuff, is because there really is only 9 numbers and a 0.
And it's just pattern recognition.
And you can really do so much with that. And then when you say there's a language or an alphabet that only has 26 letters, and then each one of those letters can only be one of the 9 numbers, now all of a sudden words, when you add them up, many words will add to the same thing. It's just the way it's going to be, just because. So I have a problem with a lot of that, where I think it gives them too much power. I know a lot of people believe that they can code things in numbers, and I'm sure that they do. I'm not saying that they don't. But I'm saying that I think we give them too much power when we kind of assign too much to the whole idea of they're using these numbers against us. And, well, no, they're just using numbers just because they can do that.
Well, there's so much, and because they're making up the stories most of the time. You're talking about that. But I think there's so much more, even better damning evidence of their shystiness and their evil, other than looking at the numbers.
Right. There's so many other things to see.
Get them on, not just, the numbers add up. Not saying,
right.
Sometimes it works.
Because you can look at Orlando and you can say all these numbers add up to this, but then you can also look and say, well, why isn't anybody able to look at the documents from the mortuary or that's where there's a problem. Is that the fact that the FBI's hidden any access to any of the documents. That's alone all you need to know. You don't need to know, well, this many people died, which is, you add them together equals 11, and you add, that's
there's so many other,
interesting. But
other things to show that it's fake.
So much everything, So, anything else, Josh?
Yeah, man. No, just wanted to say hi to you guys tonight. I'll be at the conference. I'd love to meet you guys, and it'll be fun.
Awesome. You mean the one in November?
November. Yep.
Sweet.
Denver.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And I'll go to these 2 hangouts coming up here soon. So if anybody wants to go check out those and say hello, and that'd be awesome. Love to meet like-minded people. Cool. The ones I've met so far have been awesome. So we'll be right back, guys.
Absolutely.
Give a call. Appreciate the call, Josh. We'll get the rest of your calls when we get back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw.
Sounds good.
Don't become dependent on the medical system. Get and stay healthy naturally with Extendivite. Metals in the liver cause peroxides to get dumped into the bloodstream. Peroxides do more damage than free radicals to the arteries, and the LDL has no protection from peroxides, causing the LDL to get stuck in the arteries, creating a potential blockage. Extendivite slowly chelates the metals away from the liver so it can dispose of what was meant to be a harmless process, peroxide. Extendivite 7 herbs has a job to strengthen the organs and circulatory highway. Can you afford a heart attack? Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Tired of writing checks every month for your timeshare? Checks big enough to buy a car with instead of to a timeshare you can't even use when you want? Need a way to get out of that contract that they hoodwinked you into signing? Then contact Resort Release. Take it from me, Matt Ray. When you're ready to leave the timeshare nightmare behind, these are the guys you need. Resort Release has the know-how to permanently and legally terminate your timeshare contract. Call 888-255-3611 and find out why they've been able to help tens of thousands of people like you legally end their timeshare disaster. Resort Release gives a 100% guarantee that you legally and permanently walk away. If you don't get out of the contract, you don't pay a dime. Period. And they have a Better Business Bureau rating of A+. Call Resort Release now, 888-255-3611, 888-255-3611. That's 888-255-3611, or go to resortrelease.com.
For millennia, mankind has been searching for answers to the big questions, such as, where did the universe come from? Where did we come from? Why are we here? Are we alone? And just what the heck is the Sasquatch all about? I can't promise you answers, and neither can the Woo Crew, but they invite you to join them Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight in the UK, for Freaky Friday, exclusively on Truth Frequency Radio. Spirituality, multiverse, quantum mechanics, the occult, and so much conspiracy analysis that it will make your mind melt. Take my word for it. Freaky Friday. It's more than a show. It's a way of life. I am Stephen Hawking, and I am proud to be a Wookiee.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR. Frequency Radio.
All right, I was on mute. That's not the best way to return from a break. Let's get back to the phone calls. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, awesome. How are you, man?
Doing fantastic. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty well, man. It's so cool to finally talk to you. This is awesome. I've actually been listening to you from the very beginning. I've heard everything you've ever done.
No, I feel bad for you. So let me.
Sorry. Have you ever? What's up?
I was going to ask you something. Just for some, I don't think I've ever met somebody that said that. Do I repeat myself a ton?
The important stuff, yeah, but I think now at this point you've put out so much material that I don't think anybody's going to arrive at that conclusion because
that's probably the
there's
hardest
just too much to search through.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing for me is just when you have the 3 shows, I find myself in a, it's like I know not everybody listens to Raw, and I know not everybody listens to Globebusters, and not everybody. So it gets very difficult to know when it's okay to repeat something, when it's not. That's the one thing I've got to learn. And you're right. I try to do it so if I repeat anything, it should be something important. So I'm glad that you at least got that out of it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if people are only watching one of your shows, I actually think now that you mention it, you probably think that you've mentioned it too often when you haven't mentioned it enough on that one specific show. So anybody who only watches one of your shows may not actually know what you're talking about when you think you've said it a million times. But that's just
absolutely, and it makes it very difficult. I don't know how people. Well, I don't think very many people have numerous shows like that for that reason. Probably it becomes difficult to know what you've said when and on what show and who heard it, and there's some important things that I think everybody needs to hear, and I wish everybody could listen to everything, but I know that that's not possible, and I've had a lot of people email me and say, hey, just so you know, I hear you bring up a lot of other people or other shows that might be talking about you, and they say, just so you know, I work every day, I have time for one show a night, and I listen to you, so when you bring up these other people, I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's just an interesting kind of a dance balance that you have to figure out. So glad that you noticed that.
For sure, and I'll tell you, I work a job where I have the ability to listen to every single show ever and just kind of play it on repeat. So that I have enough material to kind of debate my plugged-in friends who couldn't be bothered with this stuff. And my friends, I got to tell you, they're high-ranking positions and scientists at university labs, and they are incredibly well versed when it comes to the globe model. And I try to explain certain things like, no, but you're not seeing it. You're not quite understand what I'm saying. And I try to break it down, and I'm misquoting refraction or reflection, or I'm probably not doing some of your videos justice. And then of course, I study the occult on every single level, and these people do not, right? So they don't want to get into it on any level. And then I've broken it down to where I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what, if you don't want to get into the occult, do me a favor. Define the word, mass, and then define the word gravity.
Right.
And check out the holes. And I'm like, I don't want to say, hey, by the way, everything you believe is a complete religion. I'm like, hey, you guys, everything you believe is a complete religion. They're like, what are you talking about, man? Did you see the Tesla? The thing was awesome. Like, I'll tell you what. Just type in, NASA hairspray, and then just be honest with yourself. Please be honest with yourself. And they come back, and they're essentially, they're like, okay, so we're willing to talk about the globe math with you, but we don't want to talk about NASA. And I'm like, I don't know how you differentiate or how you separate the two, because show me a picture of curvature. Show me a picture of curvature, and it always comes back. But I'll tell you real quick that I was able to follow pretty much everybody from the beginning, and I have a similar story about everybody. I follow all conspiracies because, I'm like a cancer survivor raised by Holocaust survivors. I don't think I had a chance at being normal, but I love horror movies. And they're not scary. So I got to turn on to food documentaries, and when you watch all of them, I'm a special effects artist. I get to travel around internationally and paint giant murals, and I'm up till 6 a.m. working by myself in the dark, just painting giant murals. And I always said no to flat Earth for like 2 months. It was in the feed. I'm like, obviously the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then I was on scaffolding one night, and I think it started playing. I was listening to conspiracy videos about probably lizard people, and something about flat Earth came up, and I don't know if you guys know what you sound like, but I'm like, is SNL doing a clip on flat Earth? Because why is Amy Poehler and Will Forte they have their own show now? Holy smokes, that's crazy. And I don't know if you've ever gotten this before, but you and your wife sound exactly like Amy Poehler and Will Forte. Have you ever gotten this comment before?
Never.
Do you have any idea what I'm talking about when I say that? I wonder if anybody else agrees with that. But that's what I thought. Like, I thought that for 30 minutes straight, and I'm like, oh, this isn't a skit. I just thought I was tired. You guys sound exactly like SNL characters. So, anyways, I got down off the scaffolding because I realized it wasn't a joke, and I found some Matt Boylan videos about him as, the special effects artist, mural painter. Going on about exactly what he does for a living and how he creates images and this and that. And I'm like, oh my God, I do that for a living. Oh my God, it is so easy to do. What he's talking about is so obvious and so immediately real to me. It just, one thing after another, 30 seconds of like a Eric Dubé video of 200 proofs. And I was kind of, it sounds like the dumbest idea ever, but 2 minutes into one video, and I instantly was just obsessed with flat Earth. It was super phenomenal. I do have a question for you. Are you guys familiar with Natural Law and Mark Passio?
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
And the reason why, because although I try to listen to everybody's everything, I just never get a real. I've never heard anybody comment. It sounds as though you're so well versed on conspiracy everything, and you argue with the knowledge of the Buddhist middle way. So I appreciate how you argue. I think it's phenomenal, or how you debate or hold a topic. But it just sounds like you've reached all the deep corners of the internet, and you have all the knowledge. And I've never heard anybody mention natural law, especially when you talk about all the false flags and all of the occult stuff that you talk about. I've never heard anybody on Globebusters or anybody on any of the flat Earth paradigm shows. I've never heard it. And if you know who he is, or if you follow his stuff, he recently came out and said flat Earth is a psyop. And for people who don't know who Mark Passio is, he's like an ex-priest in a satanic church, a Church of Satan, I believe, and he defected a decade ago or so, and since then he's been giving away all the cabal secrets. Phenomenal guy, phenomenal information. The Natural Law seminar, it's absolutely changed my life, and I feel like it goes hand in hand with flat Earth. And he recently came out. A lot of people take what he says as law, natural law, kind of is law, cosmic law, but he said publicly, flat Earth is a psyop, and I'm thinking whether it's true or false. And of course, I certainly understand flat Earth. It is a psyop, whether it's true or false. And I'm thinking they just bombed Syria, right? It almost doesn't matter. Are you familiar with how the cabal releases information, in the sense that it's like whenever they get caught doing something, the cabal is like, you know what? Here's Harvey Weinstein. Just take the heat off of us. Or
right.
We realize something else to do, and the cabal's like, oh, we're almost done. We're almost done. Here's flat Earth. Shut up. It's true, but like, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
And that's how I really feel. Like I don't feel like flat Earth is a psyop in the truth sense, but it is a psychological operation. It is going to screw with people's minds, whether you have the time to wrap your head around it or not, whether it's true or not. For the people who aren't knowledgeable in that sense. Can you comment on that at all? Do you think that's how it works?
Well, I think there's so much that goes into it. I mean, with the flat Earth thought, that it's overwhelming for people on different aspects. One of them being, how could anybody possibly believe that after everything we've been taught? Then the other end of that is, we've known this certain thing, this truth for thousands of years, and these people are trying to go back to the caves. And so as far as a psychological operation or a psyop, I can't see that, because number one, and I could see why other people might think it, because if I was somebody who heard somebody on YouTube talk about flat Earth, and then I listened to what they said, and it intrigued me, and then I went and looked at somebody else, and then before you know it, I'm kind of starting to buy into this belief. And then somebody says it's a psyop, I'm going to look at it and say, you know what, they might be right, because I don't know how this person or this person or this person came to it. All I know is that I heard it from them. So in one sense, I could see where people might question the idea of whether or not it's a psyop. For me personally, I can't picture it being a psyop at all because of the way I came to it. And that was through nobody else's voice besides my wife's. I mean, we had gotten to the point where we just didn't believe anything anymore and didn't trust men. And she had said, do you think the earth could be flat? And, I told her she was crazy. I said, no, there's no possible way. And it was like a moment where probably the first time I had ever, called my wife stupid in a way, because we had decided that we were going to go back to the beginning and really build our beliefs from the bottom up, because we both had been raised religious and realized that that was a deception. And so that was a decision we had made together. We were both working from home at that point and said, yeah, let's build our beliefs from the bottom up. And then a couple of days later, when she mentioned that, I said, no, what are you talking about? You've flown around the world going east. I've flown going west. There's some things that we're not starting from way down there, because there's some things that are fundamentally true. And I kind of dismissed it, and she kind of got this little sad look on her face and, left the room or whatever. And so it was weighing on me for, not knowingly, but I mean, it was kind of in my head. And then I happened to be looking at the moon landing stuff and saw for the first time that azimuthal equidistant map. And I remember looking at that map. Now, could somebody have placed that map for me to see? Possibly. I just happened to find it on Eric Dubé's site in an article that he had about the moon landings. And when I saw that map, it was a realization that the way that I'm taught can really affect the way I see the world. Because I'm looking at this map and just thinking about how I flew and how she flew, where we went, and I'm looking at it wait a second, you can fly around the world on a flat map. I'm like, well, wait a second, why have I never... So then I didn't even want to tell her that, because I was like, I'm not going to tell her that I saw this map, because I didn't think it was true. I didn't think flat earth was true. I just thought, man, why... I never seen this map before. So I then started to look into a few more things and started to search it out, and it kind of started to show me something. I think I told people before I looked, I said, okay, well, wait, north-south circumnavigation, that's not possible on this stupid little map here. So I just need to show that. So then I went looking for that, and you have to have that open mind that okay, let me look and see if I can actually find evidence of these north-south circumnavigations. There should be a ton. And when I couldn't find them, I just started to realize, okay, I can totally yell at my wife and tell her basically, no, that's dumb. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, when it's simply based on what I've been taught. And that was the first kind of eye-opening thing for flat earth. So as far as it being a psyop, I can understand where other people get it. For me, there was no psyop there in me becoming a flat earther, because it started like that, and then it turned into me telling my wife, hey, look at this map. What you mentioned the other day about the earth being flat, this is kind of crazy. You can go around this map. And she said, well, what? Let's... And then it became about doing research on that. When we went looking at YouTube, there was no videos. There was, like you said, the Matthew Boylan videos. There was a God Rules video, but there was so few that it was just, and by, within a month or two, we were flat earthers, but one in the closet. We would never have mentioned it to anybody. We just believed that ourselves. And she told me to make videos. I said, no, it's too much. Nobody's going to believe us. And it's good for us to know. And we'll just wait and see if anybody ever starts making videos. And then Mark did. And from there, the rest is history. But as far as a psyop, I can't picture a psyop that would be the government wanting to tell people that everything that they've ever learned is a lie. So a psyop, usually in my mind at least, is something so that you need a dependence on the government, right? So if you're going to do a psyop, then you want people to, you kind of create the problem solution, right? But in this case, if people ever found out that the earth is flat, it removes their power completely, to the point where nobody would go to the government saying, please save us. We've been lied to about where we live. It would be, get the hell out of here. You guys have been behind this. So I guess that's where I don't see it being a psyop, unless, possibly if you're talking about another country implementing it, but it's too worldwide. It's not, let's say Russia wanted to, put something out that would make Americans distrust the American government. Well, there's too many true things about the flat earth. There's too much that people should recognize would be the case and are not if the earth was a globe. The evidence that should be there when you're going to teach children at 6 years old where they live is not there. And that's enough for me to realize that I don't think that by any stretch this can be a psyop. Now, as far as it being a release, like you discussed, could it be something where... Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I didn't know that a deliberate one is, and I heard Mark say even the other day that it does. I would have to agree that it does seem like the government at this point wants us to know, or they want this information released. And maybe I'm misdefining or redefining PSYOP in a sense, but because I do truly believe they want this information out now, and the reason I believe they want it out is not to solve problems. They're not looking to solve any problems. It's in a way that it's just going to confuse the non-thinkers more, and those who do think, it's going to give everybody a super positive outlook. And look, you and I are talking about this right now, but the meme I saw the other day, a war rally. A war rally in the 60s in comparison to a war rally, an anti-war protest today. No one was there, in the protest today. We're all talking about flat Earth. They literally just bombed Syria. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, is this a new type of PSYOP where the government literally wants this information out now because it's one more thing that we can talk about that's not them staging war issues. I mean, think of how easily they can take down all of the Flat Earth channels. They can do it now. They could have done it years ago. There's so many ways.
Here's my question to you. How do you mean that they want it out? Because when Shaq comes out and says that the Earth is flat, he immediately has to go on Jimmy Kimmel and retract. When B.O.B. comes out with a song that says the Earth is flat, immediately they send Neil deGrasse to Comedy Central to make fun of it. When, to me, it absolutely is something they don't want out, but they don't have as much control as we think. For instance, they do own all the media channels. They own all the news. Okay, so when Flat Earth hits the news, to me, it's because you've created something in a lie, that telling people they live on a globe, and then really we live on a flat Earth, that when that starts to come out, you have now, that's your worst fear, because you cannot go to the news stations and say, I don't want you doing any stories about the flat Earth, because the next question from those people will be, why not? It doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? It's the dumbest belief in the world. Why wouldn't we do a story about these people going to a convention? Why wouldn't we do a story about a billboard that says that the Earth is flat? Because it's a news story. It's hilarious that for 2,000 years we've known the Earth as a globe, and there's some people out there who still think it's flat. That's, in my opinion, one of the, I don't know what you call it, the baggage that comes along with telling people a massive lie like that. Like, you can't just tell people in the news, don't do stories on the flat Earth, because the next question from inquisitive people will be, why? What? So I don't see it as being something they want out. If they want it, and then as far as shutting down channels, that's the worst thing they could do. They want Jeranism to be the channel that is some crazy guy talking about the flat Earth. They don't want it to be the channel that was shut down for talking about flat Earth, because then that creates the question of why? Why would they shut down a flat Earth channel? So I think it's, at least to me, I don't see any signs of them wanting this out. I see signs of a true grassroots movement that is taking shape because it's something that cannot be refuted. I mean, it's not something that is easily dismissed, and it's been hidden. So when it starts to come out, people aren't finding it and then saying, no, that's not true, and here's the debunking for it. People are looking into it, and then all of a sudden it's becoming a topic in conversations. Like, hey, have you looked into this? Have you? And I've just heard from other people why they've become, from Eddie Bravo, who told the same story that you did, right? That he heard it 2 or 3 times and thought, that's ridiculous. This must be some sort of joke. It must be a psyop to take away from the truth, whereas now he looks at it and says everything else is a psyop to take away from the flat Earth.
I do agree with all of it. Everything you just said. It's I'm also listening to the whole. I don't know if YouTube did delete Alex Jones's channel, and of course Alex Jones has gone off in a different direction the last 5 to 10 years, so I don't really listen to that anymore. But you've said it over and over again. You take the good that you can keep from certain speakers, and you get to leave what you can't use. And I'm not paraphrasing correctly, but it's just a super bizarre time. But there was a couple of things that really solidified it for me, being a researcher in the hidden world and the occult, or whatever you want to call it. But it's just like, so, through my research, I know that debt is a fiction and taxation is slavery, government is slavery. I know that the pharmaceutical companies are trying to poison everybody. Education is fake, false. Everything is out to get you in every single way, except the Nazis over at NASA. They're telling the truth. And for us to question that, I'm like, wait a second. If
you nailed it.
That means NASA is the only one telling the truth out of everybody. And then you look at, as a special effects artist, I'm looking at that one picture of the globe. I just look at one, and I'm like, man, I could paint that thing so easily. And you show that somebody to a non-artist, and a couple of the images, and even they can kind of rectify it themselves. And then the only other point that I loved was from Eric Dubé's video, and it was essentially like, name one other experience in your reality where your five senses never rectify a wrong. And I think you've spoken about it all the time. So when you burn yourself on an oven, one of your senses is going to let you know that your senses are wrong and you're about to hurt yourself or something. But when it comes to the spin of the earth, none of your senses can pick up on it, nor can any of your senses eventually rectify it. And I had this debate online with a friend, and somebody was like, well, what about carbon monoxide poisoning, bro? And I'm like, well, neither one of us have ever experienced that, but I do think we would probably die, and whether we would know it or not, it would be obvious that, you know what I mean? It's just like, well, okay, so spinning of the earth is the only example in our reality where your senses don't pick up on it, let you know you're wrong, and then never rectify. The situation never gets clarified.
There's a lot of
over at NASA have to tell us.
There's a lot of things, and they all have to do with the shape of the earth and where you live. I mean, the fact that we can see stars trillions of miles away. I mean, your senses tell you how far you can see and how far things are, and nothing in your body would ever tell you that the stars that you see at night, I don't know if you've ever been somewhere where there's no light pollution, but one night, Miss and I, when we were driving down south, I mean, the stars are a canopy. They're like right above your head.
Incredible, yeah.
Incredible. And I mean, they've taken that away from us by putting, lights and clogging cities and making it light pollution. And so you can't see the stars anymore like you can out, in say camping or something. But it's unbelievable. It is really, and they're right there. I mean, your senses are telling you where the stars are. And I don't mean right there as in 100 feet or 1,000 feet, but they're not millions of miles. In fact, everything in your senses should tell you cannot see a million miles. And it just, it just becomes, I totally agree with what you're saying, though. I mean, it really comes down to, if you want to believe in what you've been taught your whole life, and you want to believe that you haven't been fooled, then they've given you all the tools to do that. It's not very hard to simply say, well, I was taught these things, and so they must be true, and go about your life. And that's easy. I mean, look at that one guy. I can't remember his name. The guy that did the documentary Behind the Curve, and he did that documentary. You know who I'm talking about on YouTube? The guy that
went around asking people.
Yeah, he went around asking his friends about the flat Earth. Well, he just came out with a video recently called "I No Longer Am a Flat Earther," and his reason was because it's too hard to go through life
to pursue his dreams.
To pursue his dreams. And I thought that was a scary video because it made me realize, I said, man, I don't want to say it to him, but if somebody came up to him and offered him, hey, you can be a movie producer, you can have all this money if you turn your back on humanity and lie about the shape of the earth. He, in my opinion, is somebody that would go along with that because his dream is so important. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when you look throughout Hollywood and you look at these sports stars, that you can start to see where money can buy anything. It can definitely buy your loyalty to one side or the other. And I think that's why these people are where they are. I mean, that's why Lady Gaga, who, you could grab 100 women and 50 of them would sing better than her right off the street. But she becomes great because somebody's propping her up. Somebody is moving her along. And I just think if we really dug down deep into all those, there's a reason why Hollywood is the way it is. And a lot of that has to do with where they were brought up or what families and what kind of situation. Was it child molestation? There's so many things that I think the world is not built the way that we've been taught or the way that we think. And flat Earth is just another one of those things, but I think it's so important because it's that one freeing truth. Is that the end of the show? Unbelievable. Appreciate the calls, guys. Till next time, don't go anywhere. Go.
Have a good one.
Hi, everyone. It's Chris Gio here, founder of Truth Frequency.
President Bush hospitalized, terror in Toronto. I'm Ann Cates. Former President George H.W. Bush has been hospitalized for an infection hours after his wife Barbara's funeral. Correspondent Clayton Neville with the official word from Bush's office.
The statement said the former president was taken to Houston Methodist Hospital Sunday and that he's responding to treatments and appears to be recovering. The announcement comes just days after funeral services were held for his wife of 73 years.
The death toll has risen to 10 and 15 were injured after a suspect driving a van plowed into pedestrians in Toronto. Correspondent Jason Carroll.
The van was able to travel about a half mile to a mile before it finally came to a stop. The driver had a confrontation with a police officer. The officer using incredible restraint as he's able to handcuff him and bring him into custody. That suspect being questioned by police. This is a suspect who was known to police.
U.S. security sources tell Reuters that terrorism is likely the motive behind the attack in Toronto. The defense has rested in the sexual assault retrial of Bill Cosby in suburban Philadelphia.
You now have all the evidence, Judge Stephen O'Neill told the jurors before sending them back to their hotel after an abbreviated day of testimony. The judge said, quote, "Try to relax so that you're on your game tomorrow," end quote. After hearing closing arguments from the defense and prosecution on Tuesday, they'll begin deliberations. The hope is for the 12 members to do what the previous jury failed to do after deliberating for 52 hours, reach a unanimous verdict. The defense rested its case without calling Cosby to the witness stand. "Do you, Mr. Cosby, want to testify?" the judge asked. "No, Your Honor," Cosby said. He didn't testify in the first trial as well. I'm Steve Kastenbaum.
Modest losses for Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 14 points. The S&P 500 closed flat. The Nasdaq down by 18. I'm Ann Cates.